Welcome to the fourth session of our Three Brothers D&D 5th edition campaign. Now, last session, our brave heroes, with the aid of a strange golden draconic female humanoid, were able to banish the possessing spirit of Kortis the Manslayer, this figure that Audius had encountered in the past and believed he'd killed. However, somehow this creature, this demonic creature as they suspect, was able to return and possess people whose souls had been weakened or who had great sins weighing upon their hearts. It leapt from child to child, writing graffiti, writing its own name on the walls of the city, which they were informed was part of a plan to siphon the magical energy that collects around Battlebridge for some nefarious ends, perhaps bringing him bodily into this world. They were able to banish the spirit from the body of the town guard, Perseus, who was quite traumatized by the experience. Audius acquired a book from his friend Antheus, the sage, which he's, with the help of Watum, has been copying, since they believe that this strange sort of shadowy group of mages that the golden draconic female claimed to work for will soon try and collect this book, because it mentions Kortis by name and may contain some details about summoning such entities. So Audius concocted a plan where he would copy it, give it back. The original book could then be sold, but a copy would still be possessed. Various other things happened that led to them being back at the Common Sword Tavern, at which point the bard, Sofia Vidales, who works in the evenings there, came in looking quite upset and was immediately shown to Briest Conmac, the owner of the tavern. It was revealed through a number of conversations that she fled from an unhappy marriage to a nobleman, and she'd seen someone who reminded her a little bit of her husband. Despite the dogged best intentions of Drax trying to locate this person, a lot of time had passed that he was unable to locate him. However, as they were all sort of getting up the next morning, getting ready to depart, Drax having slipped out early to go to his morning prayers, they were startled by a heavy banging on the door and a voice demanding that his wife be sent out. Audius, throwing open the door, was confronted by this cruel-looking but very handsome young noble who demanded that his wife be brought forward, and that was where we left the session. So we're actually going to start with Avastar. Now, Avastar, you've been quite naturally, quite understandably, sort of slightly traumatized by your recent experience, the premature aging of 10 years when you witnessed the ghostly patrol of soldiers marching through the town at midnight. So you've been up in your room sort of trying to come to terms with this a bit, the comments or this plush room that's been laid on for you. As you're sat there, the shutters on the window still closed, you hear this from downstairs, and you hear raised voices from downstairs in the tavern.
Okay. Actually, Avastar would have probably fallen asleep since he's sort of been inside for quite a long period of time. He's got a couple of things from room service, so quite strong liquors, and is sort of drinking that part of the tavern dry. So he would have sort of heard that and sort of come back to consciousness. He's going to reluctantly go to the door, open it very, very carefully, and sort of just so he can look out, just in case there's anybody on the floor that I know might knock on his door.
You peer out. You can see a couple of people coming out of the other rooms, obviously having heard the same noise that you have, sort of like trying to find out what's going on and looking around. So peering down the stairs, you can see Watum and Audius stood in the main bar area. Audius is literally like his hand on the door, so with his head sticking out of the door of the tavern, and he appears to be engaged in some sort of abrupt and clipped conversation with someone standing just outside the tavern.
Okay. Okay, Avastar is going to get out a little tiny vial and just sort of pour some revitalizing, watery sort of mixture into his eyes to make him a bit more awake. And he's going to pretend that he is absolutely fine and go over to Audius and Watuma to see what's going on.
Okay, not a problem. Audius and Watum, since you can both see out of the door, you can see this very handsome but quite stern and quite cruel, square-jawed face of this noble standing out there, and he repeats his request. This woman is my rightful wife by law. Send her out to me or stand aside, you green-skinned ruffian.
And do you have a name for this woman? Or am I to give you one at random?
Her name is Sophie Edgemore.
Look, just why don't you wait right there and I'll go get her for you.
Okay, yep, you head back inside. Basically, Rob, Audius was stood in the doorway. The noble is just outside. He's got these 4 toughs sort of stood around him. It's sort of fairly obvious what the noble's brought them with him for, although you can see he's actually got like a sort of very slender rapier strapped across his back. And you were stood just behind Audius, sort of looking over his shoulder out the door.
Yeah, I would probably be still sitting at the table watching this.
That's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Alright, so I'm going to turn around, and if Simon is around, I'm going to whisper to him to head out back and go fetch the guards, make sure Aldous isn't back at work.
Okay, you look around, you can't see Simon about anywhere, so in the immediate vicinity. You know he does spend a lot of his time and apparently sleeps out in the stable out back, so it's not unusual for him not to be in the
any of the bad stuff?
Yeah, it's morning, so you can see that the half-elf Finnan is stood behind the bar.
6 p.m., isn't it?
Sorry?
It's 6 p.m., isn't it? Like...
No, it's early morning.
It was late afternoon when the last came in, did you?
Apologies, my mistake. It is 6 p.m. then.
Okay.
Alright. So whoever's on bar staff, I'll say that to. Ask them to go out back and fetch the guards, and there might be a problem.
Okay, Finnan sort of looks up at you and he says, oh yes, of course, and he ducks out through the back door behind the bar and you hear his footfalls disappearing away. As you look around, you can also see Avastar like stood at the top of the stairs, peering around.
Just about to say, Avastar, how do you deal with an angry noble?
So do you just blurt that out at him as he comes up?
Yeah.
Good morning, Audius. What are you talking about? I heard some noise which roused me from my sleep.
Angry noble.
Angry noble? Why do you think I can deal with him or her? Hold on, slow down. Slow down. I still don't know what you mean. We are talking in common, right?
Yes.
Okay, then please do start at the beginning.
There's an angry noble at the door.
Right.
He wants his wife, and he looks like he might be violent. He has his thugs with him.
Right.
And I'm going to lean over the bar, and I'm going to take out some shot glasses, essentially, and I'm going to pour the Skull Basher triple X into each of them, and then I'm going to go to the door.
Okay, not a problem. You head over to the door. You can see that this noble stood there, his brows furrowing, he's got his arms crossed.
Look, I realized it was stupid to let you make your way out here. Look, why don't you come inside, have a drink, and then I'll go get your wife. But I'm not going to tell her that you're out here. I'm just going to go get her, so when she comes out here, taking her to wherever you want is up to you.
Okay, Audius, can you please make me a persuasion roll?
Deception?
Yeah, deception's
It doesn't
applicable.
matter.
John, that's usually opposed by a insight roll, so it's not a static DC for something like that because it's character against character.
Yeah, I'm gonna
It's
roll.
important because Tashif could roll a 5 and still succeed, or he could roll a 19 and still fail. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problems.
So I got a 15, but I'm willing to in my inspiration.
Okay. You might want to do that. I'm currently on 20, so.
Yeah, no.
Okay. At which point the noble says,
if he's on 20,
yeah.
I'm just saying, if he's on 20, then there's no chance I can. So I'm not even going to bother.
Okay, no problems. The noble sort of, he doesn't know exactly what you're planning, but he can see you're sort of stalling for time, and he snaps his fingers, and basically his 4 thugs are going to try and sort of shove you roughly to the side so their master can strut into this tavern.
Mm-hmm.
Do you attempt to resist?
No.
Okay, in which case they're not actually trying to damage you. They're not actually trying to damage you. They just sort of push you out of the way.
If he's not going to speak up for himself, I am. I'm going to stand up and walk beside him. Who are you, and by what right do you push my friend aside?
Okay, literally, 2 of his thugs have just sort of like taken hold of Audius by the shoulders, not trying to like knock him out or damage him, just to like push him out of the way. They've just put their hands on his shoulders when you walk forward and say, "What right do you have to push my friend around?" So, at which point, this angry-looking noble looks at you and he says, "My name, sir, I am Nico Edgemar of the noble house of Edgemar, and I'm here for my rightful, lawfully wedded wife. Now stand aside, whoever you are."
You should use more caution when applying your arms to those you do not know. You may bite off more than you can chew, much as an animal might detect the wrong foe. You may have made a mistake.
He frowns and says, yes, well, I would say that this all began when I made the mistake of not keeping a closer eye on my wife, feckless thing that she is."
I'm assuming I would have heard at least some of this conversation at this point. Obviously, the name Edgemar will prick my ears up.
You're in the same room.
Yeah, you're in the same room.
It's a tavern, you know, it might be noisy.
Yeah. No one's whispering, though.
No, yeah, this guy's certainly like shouting in like a very imperious tone. So you may not have caught all of what Watum said because he was quite softly spoken, but you've certainly heard Nico's response.
Okay. In that case, yes, I go over to this Nico Edgemar, and I say, "Did I hear you say Edgemar?"
He turns around and peers at you. You see him notice, obviously, the like points of your ears. His eyes narrow slightly, and he says, "Yes, that's right. What of it?"
"Well met, sir. I'm of House Solage. It is good to see a fellow such as yourself here."
Okay, now because of the role I've just made, Nico has heard of you. How would you be commonly known? What would be known about you to like the common members of your family? How would you be regarded?
Okay, well, the common members of my family, I would be seen as a bit weird and eccentric and not taken very seriously, because I'm still quite young, and what does he know, and he's so naive and blah, blah, blah.
At which point he looks across, he narrows his eyes, and he says, "And what is the jester of House Tholage doing in a den like this?"
"Oh, this is merely temporary. I am simply travelling around attempting to accumulate knowledge. I'm very interested in this area and its magical presences."
I'm going to come up and stand beside, but slightly behind Avastar to sort of back her up, you know, make it like a wedge formation.
Yeah, no problem at all. You do so. Nico seems to be paying more attention to Avastar now, although you can see like his thugs have surrounded him, sort of like bodyguard style. They're all stood quite close to him. Let's just say that to be kind, they've probably not been chosen for their brains by the look of these sort of like brawny toughs who are standing by him. These 4 people. He peers you and says, "Yes, and I suppose your idle diversion, Avastar, is sufficient reason for abandoning your duties to your family and your house."
Well, it's not as simple as that. But the point is, you seem angry about something. Perhaps I could help you with it.
Yes, I am angry about something. I paid a substantial dowry for the woman I married, only to have her sneak out like a thief in the night and flee to this trader's den here, and he throws his hand out in an expansive gesture. And now
I
when
walk around vacantly when he does that.
Yeah. He says, "And now when I have come here to claim what is rightfully mine, I find my way blocked by savages and foreigners at every turn."
Yes, they can be quite awful and inconvenient, can't they? And who is your wife exactly?
My wife, Sophie Edgemar.
Sophie.
She was the singer here.
Yeah, I know.
No,
but,
different name.
I'm pretending that I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't ring any bells for me, unfortunately. Have you tried outside the Vale?
He reaches inside like his sort of frilled shirt, takes out what appears to be one of those small lockets that's obviously been hanging around his neck underneath the shirt. He opens it up, and you can see there's a very small, very intricate, it must have cost quite a lot of money, portrait showing himself and a woman who is quite clearly the bard from the bar, although she's dressed in more sort of noble finery. And she has, even in the portrait, she has like this sort of blank expression on her face.
Okay.
He
And
holds it out to you so you can see it a bit, and then he snaps it shut and tucks it back in his frilly shirt.
Okay, and is it definitely the singer, or is it somebody else?
It definitely looks like the singer. If it's not her, she's got a twin sister in town somewhere.
Okay. Hold on, I think I have seen her before. Yeah, she looks quite familiar. I think she sings, doesn't she? I've seen her perform.
Yes, she has a lovely voice. It was one of the things that first attracted me to her.
Yes. Now where was it I saw her? Folaith. Yes, I saw her in Folaith a few days before I came here.
Okay, can you make me a deception roll, please? An opposed roll against myself.
Yep.
And I am on a grand total of 5.
Ooh. Hey, I'm probably going to beat you then. I say probably. 14.
Okay, he looks thoughtful and he says, "Folaith? What on earth would she be doing in that swampy morass of nothing?"
I know, it is a little odd for a venue choice, isn't it? I have no idea. I was simply passing through, and while it wasn't a very memorable place, she made a very memorable performance.
One of the thugs leans in, sort of puts his hand gently on Nico's shoulder and says, "Well, there's that little village out there, ain't there, boss?" And he's like, "You mean Cadell? What on earth would she be doing in Cadell, a village of woodcutters?" He's like, "Well, they say they've got like elves and that around there, and she did always like singing. She was always like interested in elves, so maybe she's gone to try and like look them up." At which point Nico says, "Yes, she was always given to flights of fancy like that. I suppose that could be the case." At which point he looks at you and he very sort of abruptly like holds a hand out towards you, Avastar.
I give him a graceful half-elf handshake, look him sort of in the eye with a bit of a glint.
He shakes you by the hand. As you do shake you by the hand, he's got quite a firm handshake, and he like pulls you a little bit closer and sort of whispering low so only you can really hear him. He says, "If you have been honest with me, Avastar, then I will make mention of it when I return to Castle Edgemar. However, if you have played me false, then you will be seeing me again and in less convivial settings than this. And he releases your hand and just steps back.
Well, I don't think there's any need for that, I say, having approached. Now, since you've come all this way, I'll ask again. Why don't you have a drink?
Okay, you're trying to get him to drink some of the Skullbuster. Is that the idea?
I take a little look over and say, yes, I'm sure you will find her, and perhaps if you don't, she has simply moved on. But I am telling you what I know.
Audius, you will need to make me a deception roll because this stuff like smells absolutely foul. So you'll be trying to distract him to get him to knock it back.
Okay, so I've technically got a natural 20, so a 19.
And so have I.
I was about to ask.
Ooh.
I was about to ask for advantage because I can drink it and not suffer any ill effects because I'm part orc, so I can drink it and be like,
Yeah, I'll go for that. I'll give you advantage for that. That's fine.
Numerically, that wouldn't actually give me advantage because I've already got the highest I can. You think it might make it harder for him? So he would have disadvantage because he's seeing.
I agree with it.
Okay.
You're making a more convincing argument.
What I'm going to say is, since he is a noble and they're used to having food tasters and looking out for people poisoning their food, what he does is he takes the drink off you and he raises it to his lips, but he obviously smells a bit of this like foul thing, and also you can see there's big lumps of like curdled lumps floating on the top of it. So what he does is he just sort of like holds it out behind him to one of his thugs, who sort of looks at it a little bit. And he's like, "Boss," he's like, "Well, it wouldn't do to be impolite. Down the hatch, as they say." At which point this thug looks a little bit uncertain, but he's like, you see him for a few moments. He's like, as he struggles to keep this foul, noxious brew down, and he sways a little bit, but he does appear to keep himself down. Then he lets out a of a belch, which smells quite foul, and he goes, "Oh, that's horrible, boss."
I hear it is an acquired taste, but my friend here, Audius, can drink tons of these.
Yes, I'm sure a savage brew for a savage race. I much prefer a fine vintage wine myself.
Savage brute, but a gentle bodyguard.
Alright, fuck you, you piece of shit. I told you to not say I was your servant.
I said bodyguard. Which you technically are, should things get difficult.
At which point Nico actually sort of cracks a smile and sort of chuckles to himself, and he leans forward to you, Audius, and in more friendly tones than he's been addressing you so far, says, "My friend, I'm not one to speak ill of a house that is intertwined with my own. However, there have always been rumours about the strange habits of the extra species interests of House Tholage, if you get my meaning. I would advise you to preserve your modesty, my friend." At which point he laughs and turns around and says, "Well, I'm sure I will meet you again, Avastar Tholage," and he swishes round, his coat flailing out, and he says, "You men, with me," and he walks out of the door of the tavern. You hear his footfalls clacking down the cobbles as he disappears off.
What was that he said you were, Avastar? A court jester?
I would rather be a court jester than a dead man.
Yes.
I am not familiar
I
with
skull
this
some of
person,
the
but he seems
last
more
glasses of the smuggler.
jackass than human me. This woman he is slated to marry, is she in agreement with this arrangement?
From what he implied, it didn't
it's likely,
sound like
but
it.
sounds more like her family must have agreed.
Hmm.
I did not realize that Sophie was engaged, she seemed quite free.
Okay, Avastar, can you please make me a history roll?
Yeah. Not that it would be
Can I make it? I have history?
Yep.
It could be something about nobles, right? And so maybe only she rolls, right? And it depends on the sphere of knowledge, the information.
It's fairly general information, so I don't mind your roll.
Alright, 16.
Okay, Audius, you would know that it's not at all uncommon amongst the noble houses for houses who are maybe a bit down on their luck or their finances aren't working out to marry one of like their sort of younger daughters who's going to bring no sort of, as far as they're concerned, going to bring nothing to the house. They marry them off to a more wealthy noble family and they receive a substantial dowry in return, which they use to boost their house's fortune. It's very rare in noble marriages that either of the individuals has a say in it.
If this is the way of nobles, then I do not think we should interfere. But if it is not...
Well, if they're both forced into this, then why the hell does he want to marry her so much? He even made it sound like he chose her for himself.
I do not know this Sophie woman, but I think it would be easy to assume that she is the more desirable of the two. He seems rather annoying.
And when he comes back, he's not going to be happy at Everstar.
No,
You should get yourself a bodyguard. I say, and I head back down to my table.
Well, maybe I will, but it might show you up.
As you're saying this, Finnan comes back in from the back door and he's like, "Oh, is everyone all right?"
Absolutely fine,
Resolved.
thank you. If a little hungry.
It was resolved peacefully. Did you get the guard?
He says, "Yeah, there's a couple of them on their way now. They're just a few minutes behind me. Do we still need them?"
Not
I
really.
think it may cause more harm than good at this point.
All right, well, I'll go and tell them that it's all been settled, and I don't want to get in
Wait a
trouble for
minute.
wasting the guard's time.
Perhaps
Wait a
this
minute,
fellow will return.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I can write a letter detailing the incident, and you can hand it to the guards before they arrive. Should only take less than a minute.
Okay, yeah, like I said, they're a few minutes behind me, so yeah, if you can write it down quickly, I'll go and tell them.
Yeah.
I hand them a piece of
So-
paper and a slide over an inkwell and quill.
I take out my own. Like, it's much appreciated.
I give them a look. I give them a look like I'm slightly offended and put my stuff away.
I just shrug, like, what? Okay. And I write a letter just detailing what happened, and my intent is to use legalese to make him sound like he's definitely in the wrong and he's definitely committing some crime.
Okay, do you have any sort of skill that would be applicable for doing that? To get your point across?
There's a way. It could be an intelligence check, but I have history, investigation. I think I have all the skills that you could put it under, but I don't think there's a skill that jumps out to me as being more.
But you are trying to make it kind of one-sided. You're trying to make it sound biased. So persuasion might be appropriate.
Yeah, I was thinking persuasion. Obviously, it's not verbal persuasion, but you are trying to convince them of your point.
It seems weird because, like, if I had a stutter, that would decrease my charisma,
Correct.
and could be like the reason why I have low charisma. But I don't think that makes sense in this case.
In which case, I will say make me a basic test based on your intelligence score. However, I will give you the advantage because you do have all these other skills supporting it.
Okay, Yeah, that makes sense. It's only a +2 advantage, but okay. 21.
Okay, you write down which, being modest with yourself, in your own opinion, is a masterwork of legal jargon. You're pretty sure that you're like, they'll probably arrest him based on this. That's how good it is. You fold the scroll up, hand it to Finn, and he's like, "Oh, is that it, sir? Anything else I need to
That
tell
should be
them?"
all.
Okay, I'll go and catch up with him then, sir. And he nips out the back of the bar again, and you see him disappearing off down the road.
I was not aware that an orc was capable of writing so many different and lengthy words. You are indeed not a savage.
Well, thanks, but I don't need anyone's validation to know that. I spent years working in a bookbindery, writing simple business wills and such was often my responsibility.
Truly? Your personality would not
No,
suggest such a history.
As you're saying this, the door opens and a pot-bellied man walks into the tavern. He's holding a large wicker basket under one arm, wedged against his waist. You can smell the sort of savoury aroma of fish rising from this basket. He walks in, looks around, and he sees Finnan, sort of who's returned back to the bar, and he says, "Oh, Finnan, where do you want this delivery? Just caught him, fresh catch."
Not
You're
right
like, "Oh."
in front of me, thank you.
The guy sort of stops talking. He looks across at you a bit, shrugs, and Finnan's like, "Oh yeah. Just bring him over here. Pass him to me over the bar. Why don't you bring him round the back like you normally do?" And he's like, "Well, I was walking past. I saw the door was open. I thought there's no point me circling all the way back round the tavern when I just walk in here." He goes, "Might even treat myself to a drink while I'm here." He says, "What's good at the minute?" He's like, Finnan says, "I don't even know why you ask. You're just going to order the ale. You always have the ale." Which Finnan goes, "Yeah, I suppose you're right." And he dumps this big wicker basket of fish down on the bar, which Finnan sort of takes and disappears out the back, comes back, pours him an ale, hands it to him. He's like, "Cheers, lad."
I'm going to ignore that individual and I'm going to continue transcribing the book. And recall I don't have much left to do.
Indeed, the transcription is pretty much finished now.
A masterwork, if I don't say so myself.
You just did.
Okay, seated where you are near the door, Watum, you can see like through the door, which is still open after this guy's walked in with his catch of fish. You see that it's started to get dark outside. There's a man walking down the street. He's got like a large Hessian sack over his shoulder. At regular intervals, he stops by what are sort of poles with metal like lanterns on the top. You see him reach inside his bag, takes out a candle, lifts the glass up, puts it on this like stick, lights the candle, puts the glass back on, moves along, repeats with the next one, and just carries on making his way down the street.
Yeah, but Tomb's going to absorb that like a tourist would, lamplighter. He's just going to, my plans are I'm going to order some fish. It's obviously very fresh. And then I'm going to relax and do my studies, and then tomorrow I'm going to go to the Church of Abraham. So.
Okay, not a problem. This whole affair with the noble, Finnan going out, coming back, the man with the fish coming in, has probably taken roughly an hour, including the transcriptions that Audius has been finishing. So it's about 7 p.m. now.
Yeah, so I'll order a meal.
And yeah, I'll also order a meal, although I specifically say it needs to be well done.
Yeah,
Finnan
good
looks
call.
at you a bit curiously and he says, "Well done, sir."
As in, cook it longer than you normally do, but make sure it's not burned.
Oh, okay, sir. Right, you are. I'll go and get it on now for you. He says, "We've not had any complaints about our cooking before, sir." So you've not.
Complaints?
He says, "Well, yes. Since you mentioned it, I assumed you'd had like an issue with our cooking before, or something along those lines. People just don't normally mention it. How long they want stuff cooking for, to be honest.
Well,
Just put me a bit back."
surely for the taste. I prefer the taste.
Oh well,
Nothing to do with illness or anything like that. I prefer the texture.
I meant no offence. He says, "Well, I can tell you, we've got some nice pickled herring in the back. You won't get anything nasty off that. It's pickled. Can't go wrong with that, can you? We normally serve it with a bit of cabbage and a beer. Cost you 11 copper."
Yes, that will do. But
I think we've got a
may
bit
I...
of boiled mutton if you fancy that.
Oh, no, thank you. No, that'll be fine. That'll be fine.
Okay. So cross off like 11 copper pieces. He turns to you, Watum, and he's like, "And what can I get for you, my friend?"
You brought in fresh fish. I would like some of that. And I would like it cooked. He looks at Alistair. I would like it cooked properly.
Very good, sir. Very good. Says, "Yeah, no problem." He says, "Well, we've got a nice bit of trout." Looking at the basket there, take me a little while to cook it up nicely, but you've got to keep it a bit flaky, haven't you? He says, "Again, we normally serve it with a bit of lettuce or cabbage. Does come with a tankard of mead, though. It is 12 copper. It's only 1 copper more, like I say."
That is acceptable to me. Bring me that.
Okay. He heads off.
Sit and wait.
Return a few minutes later. Takes you 12 copper off you. Puts down these 2 plates for you. Yours has the pickled herring and some what looks like dried cabbage on it, and there's a tankard of foaming beer with it. Watum, yours is this lovely long trout sort of hanging over the edge of the plate a bit. It's quite substantial. Served on a bed of this lettuce, and there's a tankard of very sweet smelling mead that comes along with it. A sort of nice golden colour. As Finnan puts those 2 down, he says, he looks across at Audius, who's still got his nose in the books a little bit, and he says, "What about your friend there? Is he, sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Does he want anything? Or? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir. I can see that you look busy. Do you want anything to eat or drink?"
Sure. Just some water and a steak. I don't care if you burn it.
Right, I don't know if we've got any. I don't know if we've got any like beef steaks, sir. I know we've got a bit of roasted pork left from earlier. I could do that and a bit of cheese and some ale if that could. He says, "Well, I tell you what, since it's leftovers, I'll knock a bit. I'll do you that for 8 copper, sir. How's that sound for you?"
Sounds good.
Right, it'll just be a few minutes, sir. I've got to like flake it off, but I'll be back in a moment. And he disappears off into the back. A few moments later, he comes back with effectively like this plate of pulled pork, like a big wedge of a fairly sort of sharp, like tangy cheese, and a big mug of foaming ale that he sets down. He goes, "Well, hope you all enjoy." And he sort of winds his way back through the various sort of like peasants and locals towards the bar.
Yeah. So I'm just going to enjoy my meal and I'll look around, take in the people, get a sense of this town, kind of thing.
Okay,
Sip
yeah,
at my
not a problem. Yeah, not a problem. You're looking around, you can see a lot of people in here are wearing sort of fairly common clothes. A lot of them look like they're people who might work on the docks on Fisherman's Mile, which is located on the road behind this tavern. And in fact, I'll bring up the map to show you that. There we go. So if you have the common sword, which is there, Alright, that doesn't appear to be working particularly well at the minute, but I'll sort that out in a minute.
It's working okay for me. I was seeing it.
Could you all see that when I put it up on the screen?
I could see that you were kind of in and out of the layers or something.
Okay, let me try and open it in Paint, see if that works any better.
I always open it in Microsoft Viewer. It's really easy to zoom in and zoom out.
Okay, I shall give that a go. Let's see if that works then. Okay, can you guys see that?
It's black.
Yeah, that's the problem I had with it before, so I'll have to do it in Paint.
What file extension is that, John?
It's a PNG.
Yeah, that's a problem. PNG should work. Oh, that's not a problem. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it should
Okay,
work.
let's see if this is any better. Then I do apologise for these minor technical hitches,
My
guys.
maps are all PNGs too.
How's that?
Hey.
That works. That works.
Yeah.
Okay, not a problem. So if you can see the common sword is sort of there-ish,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
and running along the back of it is a fisherman's mile here with the west docks here. So a lot of the fishermen sell their catches to local businesses, stop off in the taverns on the way back. There's various sort of houses around here where the fishermen live. So a lot of the people in this bar will be wearing sort of leathers, long coats, etc. The sort of stuff you'd expect to see fishermen wearing. Most of them are wearing sort of wide-brimmed leather caps to protect them from the elements while they're sat out on the docks that go into the narrow river waters, the shallower waters. As you're sat around, you can hear a couple of them who are on like a table near you, are obviously telling sort of like bawdy tales. You hear one of them go, "Yeah, 80 years, 80 years," he said. At which point one of his mates is like, and he nearly knocks his drink over. He's like, "Whoa, hold on a minute, Attius, calm yourself down." He's like, "It's not that funny." This sort of like guy, like a bit of a paunch, he's like leaned back and he's literally like holding onto his stomach. He's laughing that much. He's like, "Oh, 80 years." He's like, "That's the funniest thing I've ever heard." The guy who told the story, he's like, "All right, calm down, Attius. It's not that funny." He's like, "I need to spend most of your time on your own out on the docks, but..." At which point a few of us is like, "Anyway, never mind all that rubbish," and they just carry on talking about local affairs.
Okay, well, I'm just going to continue to sip on my mead and, just look around like a tourist might.
Yep, not a problem. You look around, the bar is slowly starting to fill up a little bit more as so about an hour passes, so it's about 8 p.m. now. People are slowly starting to come in, the sort of night crowd, as people are knocking off work for the day. They're coming in to spend their hard-earned coins.
So after an hour, I've finished my book and I shut it and I'm feeling all proud, and I put it away in my knapsack and I look around the tavern. Is Alfio still there?
Sorry, is who still there?
The halfling.
No, he's not there.
Okay, so I'm going to go to where his seat is, where he was sitting last time I saw him.
Not
I'm
a
going to
problem.
take out my pen, which won't have any ink in it, and I'm going to just kind of sit there for a while, but I'm tapping my pen, but actually I'm making marks in thieves' cant on the desk.
Very nice.
It's just asking him for basically if he knows how to get poison. So it might be in broken, got poison or something.
Okay, not a problem.
But it
You
should be
make
clear
those
that's
marks.
a spy thing.
Yeah, no problems. You get the gist across in Thieves' Cant. It's a language you know, so that's absolutely fine.
And so after that, I stand up and stretch, and I walk back to my turners, and I think I'm going to retire for the night. Thanks for your help with the book.
Most assuredly. I shall see you in the morning.
Will do.
I will see you in the morning as well.
Okay, not a problem. So, if no one has anything they particularly want to do, I'm going to fast forward to the next morning since you're all retiring for the evening.
Okay.
I will just study my spell in my room before I sleep, but that's about it.
Yeah, of course, not a problem. Okay, what sort of time will you all be looking to wake up next morning?
Avastar's body clock is a bit all over the place because he slept quite late the day before, so he would have had trouble getting to sleep. So he's going to wake up quite late, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock even.
Okay.
I'm probably going to wake up at 6 because as we just left it, it was like 8 p.m. when we went to sleep, so I'm probably not going to sleep in that much.
Well, I went to our rooms anyway. Might not immediately go to sleep.
Yeah, but anyway, Audius would have retired early. Went to bed early, so.
Yeah. I'll wake up about 7-ish, 7:30.
Okay.
Nothing.
Not a
I'm
problem.
hurried. I'm not hurried at all.
Okay, so next morning you pass a fairly trouble-free night's sleep. However, at Avastar, at some point during the night, you do wake up, only for a few moments before you fall asleep because you are quite tired. You wake up and it feels for all the world as though someone had. The best way to describe it is as though someone had taken their hand, dipped it in a bucket of ice cubes, held it there for a few minutes, then they'd taken it out and pressed it onto your chest, sort of there. It's a very cold feeling.
I'm gonna
You wake.
rip open my shirt and just check, see if there's anything there.
No, you look absolutely fine. There's no marks or anything. However, as you wake up, you hear the sound of the Battle Bridge bell tolling midnight.
Midnight.
Bong, bong,
Okay, I'm gonna look in.
bong,
I'm gonna get out of bed and look in the mirror.
bong, bong. Okay, you get up. Bong. You look in the mirror. Bong. You see yourself as you are now. You still are aged, but there's been no other noticeable change.
So I'm not getting older.
Bong. No.
Okay.
Bong. Bong.
Oh, shut up! I'm gonna go back to bed.
Bong. And as you say that, the 12th chime takes place and everything falls eerily silent. You hear there's not a sound over the town. I presume you've got your shutters closed, Avastar?
Yeah, they've been shut at all times.
Okay, not a problem. You can hear that silence appears to have settled over Battle Bridges. Anyone who's got any sense is sort of indoors, getting themselves safely tucked up before this patrol of ghosts marches through the town. And you can just about hear through the thick wood of the shutters the faint sound of footfalls marching down the road, marching down Bridge Road outside the town.
Take one last look in the mirror just in case.
Yeah,
Because
you look as you looked the day before.
Okay. Good. Right. Sleep.
Okay, not a problem. Now, Drax, whilst we were rounding off the events of the previous evenings, you had disappeared up to your room to say your prayers, etc., and get a bit of an early night after the excitement of the previous day. What sort of time would you be waking up the next morning?
Drax is what you could call a super early riser. He likes to get up at the crack of dawn to get on with his Lord's work.
So about 6 maybe?
Six on the dot. Why not?
Okay, not a problem. In which case, Audius and Drax are the first to rise next morning. It's a lovely sunny day as you both throw open the shutters on your rooms. As you look out, you can see there's a slight breeze. You can see leaves and bits of grass blowing down the street.
Drax will head downstairs, get himself some nice by now well known. It's not orcish breakfast.
Yeah, not a problem. You have a bowl of buckwheat porridge put down in front of you, and a mug of watered down ale because it's early morning.
Yeah, you notice the Drax actually puts a little bit of salt in there. Just stirs it in.
When you get downstairs, you already see Audius there with his bacon and porridge. You see him just taking a spoonful of like the porridge and making sure that the crisp bacon's on top of it, and just like taking a bite out of that.
Out of curiosity, is Audius, is he what you call a delicate eater, or is he more of a furious consumption of food?
He's not messy. I would say that he eats kind of fast, actually. Like, he would definitely be the first person to put down his plate, but he doesn't like eat like some like orc savage or something, like causing like food to go flying everywhere.
For anyone observing Drax eats, he eats kind of with his shoulders hunched, almost like he's always expecting someone to like tap him on the shoulder, or he's protective of his food, as if he's used to having to fight for what he gets. He's kind of
like... Okay, excellent. As the two of you are sat down eating your morning repast, you see the small figure of a halfling, one like mad staring eye, walks down the stairs. He has his ever-present bodyguard, this like very butch-looking tiefling woman standing behind him. He walks downstairs, goes over to his normal chair. Drax, can you make me some sort of perception roll? Let me know what you get, Drax.
I've just got to wait for Dice Stream to load. Sorry.
Not a problem.
I should do that. Perception. Yes. Okay. Boom. Roll. It's not the best of rolls, John. It's only a 8. No, sorry, 7.
Okay, you're busy tucking into your porridge, so you don't see what I'm about to describe. Audius, you're expecting it, so you notice it. You see this small halfling walk over to his normal chair. He pulls out the chair, and you see him peer at it for a few moments, and he goes, huh. And he climbs into his chair. The tiefling sits down next to him. He orders some watered down beer. You see him tip his hat in your direction, Audius.
Is that an invitation?
You know, he makes a few sort of gestures with his fingers as he tips his hat, and you know that in thieves' cant he's effectively saying that you are welcome to join him. He's not saying you have to, but he's indicating that feel free if you wish.
All right. I just said Platoon should be awake any moment now. He's a very early riser usually, and I kind of go over to that table with the halfling.
Okay, not a problem. You walk over to the table where Alfio Berenzes is sitting. He looks up at you and he's like, "Yeah, I could get what you need, but," and he lowers his voice, "but I can't go supplying things to just anyone. And like I say, well, you've not proven yourself yet, have you? He looks across with like his big sort of like buck teeth, and he's like, "Look, if I give you what you want, and let's say you're a bit indelicate with it, then it's going to come back to me, and it's going to reflect badly on my reputation. I've got to be careful about who I do business with."
No, that makes perfect sense. Don't want to need to. I just had one client that might have worked for,
Oh, put it this way: once you've proven yourself, assuming everything goes well, like the matter we talked about, then come and have a word with me then, and I'll sort you out what you need. I know a man who knows a man. The sort of burly tiefling who sat next to him just sort of goes, huh. When he says, "I know a man," she's just like, huh, and shakes her head a little bit. He looks up at her and he's like, "Oh, don't you start, Chris." He's like, "Fucking, I'm not married to you." But she just shakes her head and doesn't say anything.
So I'll conclude my conversation with them then, and promise that I'll prove myself quickly.
As you're sort of presumably about to leave the table, Alfio sort of puts a hand on your arm and he says, I should probably just mention as well the matter and the individual that we talked about, the person of interest. We like to make it easy for like new blood to find their target, you know, because we're not sure. We don't believe in like making it unnecessarily difficult for you. The task itself will be difficult enough, so you'll find it quite easy to identify. And he sort of chuckles to himself as he sits back in his seat and folds his arms. He's like, "Don't worry about it. You'll see what I mean."
Okay then. I'm away from the table and I'm just imagining like being at the ball and there being like one with like a giant head or something. Just like wondering like what's so distinctive about it.
And he turns around and engages his tiefling companion in conversation. The bar's quite empty at this point because it's early morning. Most of the people who took shelter in here for the evening when they were caught out in the street late last night have left and are heading to their homes. You can hear people outside, traders, shouting through the door as people are like walking in and out. You can see in a shop opposite the Common Sword, there's a man putting like furniture, like wooden chairs, stools outside the front of his shop.
Yeah, I just didn't eat my breakfast.
Okay.
Eventually, I'll drift downstairs and I will order some tea, but I want the hot water and the tea separate. I don't want the tea pre-made.
You mentioned tea, and Finnan's like, tea? Sorry, I don't think we've got any of that, sir. We don't get much call for it.
A pot of boiling water, then.
Yeah, I can certainly do you that, sir. Just be a few moments, and he dutifully heads off and comes back with just like this urn full of.
Okay.
It's not actually boiling, but it's just very hot. But he
Good
does
enough.
bring it back, and he says, "There you go, sir. Best I can do, I'm afraid. You sure you don't want like just a little bit of wine in it, or a little bit of beer, or something?"
I am certain.
It's good for you. Cures all the nastiness in the water.
I have what will cure me this morning, perhaps later in the day.
Right you are, sir, right you are. And he nods at you and he heads back to the bar.
So I take out a bowl from my pack and I take out a pouch with some powder in it. I pour some of the boiling water into the bowl and I put some powder in and I stir it up, and it kind of makes a sort of yellowy looking gruel, but I like it.
Okay, no problems, and you tuck into that with gusto. Probably about an hour sort of passes by, various conversations, etc. At this point, you're just starting to wake up, have a start. Although the memory of that sort of cold feeling in your chest has like entirely disappeared, but you've obviously still got the memory of it, like the residual feeling of it.
It'll be most inconvenient if that happens to me every single night for the rest of my life.
You come downstairs just before sort of 9. Assuming you're heading downstairs, or is there something we should
I throw on a sort of a loose robe and I head downstairs.
Okay, not a problem. You walk downstairs. You can see the other 3 are already down there, tucking into various breakfasts or finishing them off, as the case may be, for those who started earlier.
Alright, so I guess now we can head to the Church of Abraham. I say, finishing the last piece of bacon.
I haven't even had anything to eat yet.
No hurry. Please.
Well, you should have waken up earlier.
Kortis.
Not everyone is an early riser.
Let others be as they are, as we are trying to do with you.
Fine, in that case allow me to have some breakfast.
Please.
Fairly quick, if you let me. So yeah, I go over to the bar. I order something. I try and sort of say I would like something light and not healthy, but the light option.
Finnan looks at you and he says, "Wow, the porridge is pretty stodgy, to be honest. Is that we've got some sardines in the back. I can sort you some of them out. Nice bit of toast."
Yes, okay, that will do fine, thank you.
Yeah, no problems. He heads off and he comes back with just like this big sort of like noggin of crusty bread that has obviously been like held over a candle or something similar to like lightly toast it. And there's these 3 sardines lying on top, the sort of juices from the fish soaking into the bread, and he puts it down on a little metal plate in front of you.
Thank you. Very compact.
Well, it's just the smallest plate we've got, sir.
I'm sure it is. I take it with me and go and sit down and tuck in.
Okay. He heads over to the table, like picks up the finished bowls and plates that the rest of you had had, and sort of carries them over and disappears behind the bar. You hear a sort of like crashing sound as he obviously deposits them in whatever washing receptacle they have in the room behind the bar. Then he comes out, stands by the bar, and he's just generally chatting to the few people who are in the area.
So I finish fairly quickly, and then I head over to the others. I'm afraid you're going to have to explain to me why we're going to a temple. Are you a recent convert, Patu?
I am not, but I have heard that there is a woman there who bears a wand like mine, but not like mine.
Ah,
it is indeed.
Yes. I remember you mentioned that before.
It is the very core of my purpose for being out here, is to find the source of these wands and their purpose.
Fair enough. Early morning stroll, I suppose.
I would be most grateful for your company. I look around at all of them when I say that.
We made an agreement when we came in here, this town, to help us out with each of our goals.
Yes, that is true. Yes, and I am thankful that you reminded me.
Mine is nearly partially fulfilled, although Kortis wasn't really my goal. And that's another thing from my past, but yes, it is Watum's turn now.
Fabulous. I'm very pleased that you managed to eradicate that problem. Well then, I am ready when you are.
Okay. So I will pack away my bowl. I wash it out, like using the very water, boiling water, wash it out, put it away, put my spoon away. So I don't use the dishes. And then, I will get up and we'll head out and I'll turn onto the bridge road and head across the north bridge towards the temple.
Okay, not a problem. You make your way along Bridge Road, as you have said, heading towards the North Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
As you make your way towards the sort of entrance to the North Bridge, looking over to the left of you towards the north, you can see what appears to be an area populated by market stalls and small buildings. You notice that none of the market stalls appear to be currently used. They're all empty. There's no wares displayed there. And then you move across the North Bridge. As you head
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, do they look empty because they're like long abandoned, or they're just the owners haven't gotten up to date?
It's like a market held every week, isn't it? So,
like a flea market then.
Yeah. Those of you who have been in Battle Bridge for a while will know that the North Bridge market is only open every 10 days, so the 10th, 20th, and the 30th of the month. Okay. Whereas at the moment we're only on the 4th, so it's not currently being used. You can actually see there's a young man sat on a crate, just sort of like keeping a bit of an eye on the marketplace. He looks up and nods at you as you head past, heading on to the North Bridge.
And the Antheus Tower, we were there before. That's where we got their pay and stuff like that, right?
Indeed, it's where you met the sage Amphius before. It's this ramshackle old tower. Looks as though it's been built in the same style as the old bridge tower, the Civic Tower, only instead of having this gorgeous lilac-coloured dragonstone roof, this is much more threadbare. It's falling into disrepair. There's big bits of the stonework missing where you can see the structure of the tower through it. As you move on to the street near Amphius' tower, which you can see by a number of signs that are sort of like tacked onto buildings as you head onto there, it's called Flamewing Street. As you move down there, you can see a young man in a flat cap. He would appear to be a young dwarf, judging by his height and the sort of straggly little beard, although he's obviously not very old. He's got like a sack next to him, what appear to be red feathers in it. As you're walking along, you can hear him shouting to people, going, "Get your genuine Flamewing feathers. 1 copper a feather. Flamewing feathers. Finest you'll find in Battle Bridge. Flamewing feathers."
I look at him. What's a Flamewing feather?
Indeed.
He smiles warmly and sort of walks over at the prospect of a customer, and he says, well, sir, don't you know, this stretch of the river, this is where the Flamewings normally flock to? Flamingos, as some would call them. They're not here now because it's winter, but you know they head southwards for the winter. But they're here in the summer. Oh, they make ever such a racket, but they do shed their feathers while they're here. I'm sure you probably know if you've been here for a while that it's like against the law for anyone who's not in like the ruling house to like hunt them or kill them. But well, I try and make a bit of a living by like finding the nicest feathers, and he holds up this big sort of red feather towards you. Can you make me a perception roll, Audius?
A what?
A perception roll.
I'm looking closely as well.
Yeah.
What purpose do the feathers serve?
11.
Okay. What did you roll for yours, Watu?
I'm waiting for the stream to tell me. 17.
Okay. Anyone, basically everyone but Watum who looks at this feather, it looks like this really vivid, large, bright red wing feather. As you're saying, well, what do these feathers mean? And he holds it out for you to have a look, Watum. As you're looking at it, Watum, with your keen eye, you can see that it looks as though the red pigmentation on the feather isn't actually part of the feather, like it's a white feather that's been somehow stained red.
Why are you selling feathers that are not as they first were? Let me clean them for you. I'm going to gesture quickly and cast prestidigitation on the feather he's holding, basically washing it clean.
You wave your hand across it, and just this red coloration disappears till he's holding a white feather. And he's like,
Yeah,
he's like, I don't know what you mean, sir. He says, I don't know what devilry you're working on my feather here, so you've turned it white as snow, sir. So I don't know what you mean, sir.
Oh, and flamingo's pink, not red.
He says, well, flame wings, the Battle Bridge flame wings are bright red, sir. He says, but your friend here, he's done something to my feather. He's turned it white, sir. I can't sell a white feather, can I?
Okay.
He simply cast a trivial spell to clean the red ink or dye or whatever it was off it. I wasn't born yesterday.
I want to look at his fingers and fingernails and see if there's any traces of red paint on them.
You can actually see there's like flecks of red under his fingernails on the hand he's holding the feather in. He rather huffily puts the white feather back in his bag, and he says, well, I'm just trying to make an honest living on others. I don't come out here to be pestered by the likes of you.
Indeed, you are. Indeed, you are not trying to make an honest living. You are trying to make a dishonest living.
Well, sir, if he could earn a more honest living, don't you think he would?
Well, yes. Obviously, selling white feathers isn't really doing him good service.
Well, people like him scrape by on whatever they can, and this is the best he can do.
I will make no efforts to stop him from doing what he is doing, but his claim that he is making an honest living isn't untrue.
At which point the young dwarf looks towards you, Audius, and he says, He says, well, yeah, it's not easy making a living. It's like, you come here, he says, everyone goes, oh, you're a dwarf, you must be like amazing at working with stone, or you're probably going to like go and work for the blacksmiths. He's like, I've never been any good at like forging anything in my life. I've never even like laid bricks, never mind built a building. And that's all you get if you're a dwarf. You walk in anywhere, they're like, oh, what weapons are you making? Are you making horseshoes? Oh, what stone buildings are you building? And when you tell them no, you don't do any of that, they're like, oh, and they just look really disappointed and then say they've got no work for you. So what am I supposed to do? I've got to make a living, haven't I? I've got to make ends meet.
Yeah, that you do. And I take the white feather from him and I give him 2 copper.
He sort of holds it out to you, and he takes the copper, and then he's like, if you're going to give me 2 copper, sir, I can at least give you a red one, sir.
Okay. I say, because I don't want to hurt his pride.
He actually hands you the white feather and another red one. And he takes the 2 copper, disappears it into his jerkin, and says, well, thanks very much, sir. Much appreciated. And he like tips his flat.
A moment. I'm going to grab his wrist, and I'm going to cast prestidigitation on his fingers. You may be more persuasive if the red is not quite so obvious.
He looks at his hand, and he's like, by the All-Father, I don't think my hand's ever been this clean.
I am certain it has not.
And you see him like looking at his other hand, which is obviously still quite grimy, and then he's got this other hand which is like sparkling clean. And he's like,
yeah, I meant both hands, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll assume you cast it on his other hand as well as he holds it up, and he's like, oh, thank you, sir. That's a really neat trick you've got there, sir. I've not seen anyone do that before. And he's like looking at his fingernails and his hands.
Yeah, coming clean can be accomplished without magic. Perhaps you should try it. He
says, well, I'll tell you what, sir. He says, when you can find somewhere that's willing to give me honest work, I'll do it. He says, look, I've not got much of a sense of pride, but I don't go in for like outright robbing people or trying to steal from people or anything like that. He's like, but I've got to make a living. So I don't like doing this, to be honest, but I've got to make a living, and I've not got much money, so what can I do?
You needn't plead your case with me. I am not here to be your judge. I turn to walk away.
Yeah, not a problem. You walk away, and as you guys depart, you hear him sort of shouting, "Flame wing feathers! Get your flame wing feathers!"
I actually used to stay with him a little longer.
Yeah, Drax stays behind for a moment or two.
Because the whole thing of the fact that he's not like he should be kind of really hit home with me. And I say to him, listen, surely you don't enjoy just selling feathers.
He's like, well, no, of course I don't. But he's like, well, I've got no money to like invest in any other type of business or to like set myself up in business. He's like, truth be told, he's like, I tell you what I really enjoy doing. He's like, well, I play the pipes, don't I? He's like, but well, I've never been that good at it, to be honest. So I can't really make much money out of that. I try every now and again, busking for a bit of money, but well, there's not a lot of money in it.
Maybe if you had some decent pipes, you would get more money.
He's like, I've got some decent pipes. I made them myself.
Oh, I apologise.
And he reaches in his bag and he sort of rummages around, sticking his arm in, and he pulls out like a set of wooden pan pipes. And he's like, yeah, they might not be the prettiest, but they do the job. Made them myself. Not bad if I say so myself, although I'm no real craftsman. He said they work right, and he sort of goes on these pan pipes in a passable tune. He's obviously got no sort of expertise when it comes to music.
Okay, I get out, say, 2 gold pieces, and I will say to him, while you may need to brush up a little, this will give you enough to go to a little place I know where some elves will highly enjoy that music.
He's like, oh, what place is that then, sir?
I come up with a place I pass through.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, someone help me. I'll type in a random name.
That's fine. I'm quite willing to assume you tell him a name of an elf settlement.
Yeah, I tell him. I tell him my name.
Okay. He says, "Oh well, thanks very much. Yeah, I might do that." And he's sort of like looking. He's not taking his eyes off these 2 gold pieces that are like sat in his hand. He's looking at it like it's the most money he's like ever seen, and he can't quite believe he's holding 2 gold pieces.
Now, don't spend that all at once.
He's like, "Oh, I can live for weeks off this, sir. Thank you very much." He's like, at least tell me your name, sir. It's, it's not very often we get generosity like this for people like myself in Battlebridge.
Alistar Tholage, an upcoming sorcerer.
He smiles and he says, "Well, I don't know much about sorcery." He says, "My name's Odric, though."
Well, Odric, I will tell you this. Sorcery is something that involves a lot more exciting things than simply cleaning feathers.
Well, I don't know about that. He says, that guy over there, and he points at sort of Watum, who's like obviously heading off down the road. He says, "Wow, that was pretty impressive, and that involved cleaning."
Watch this. And I'm going to do a very sort of simplified version of Burning Hands, just sort of presenting a little flame in my hand, and then make it disappear.
His eyes widened and he went, "Oh, I bet that's right handy for lighting candles on a windy night."
It can do much more than that.
He says, "Well, anyway, I'd love to stay and talk, but I've got to get on my beat and carry on trying to flog these feathers. Got to make a living, haven't I?"
Yes, but just saying, if I was you and I'd been handed 2 gold pieces, I would take the rest of the day off.
He says, "Yeah, but if I did that, I'd have to spend the 2 gold pieces and then I wouldn't have them." He says, "Whereas what I'll do is I'll carry on my beat for the rest of the day and then I'll sit down late in the evening and I'll work out what to do with it." He's like, "Just because I haven't got any money doesn't mean I'm a fool with it."
Each to their own.
He nods at Avastar and Drax, and then he's like, "Well, nice to meet you all." And he wanders off sort of back across the North Bridge going, "Flame wing feathers! Finest in Battlebridge, get your flame wing feathers!"
I hope he does something with that money.
Okay.
Probably buy more feathers, if I'm honest.
Meanwhile, Watum and Audius, you have walked down Flamewing Street. You turn left, heading northwards, northeast, on a street called Candle Street.
When we do, I do take note that there's a frickin' street called Slaughter Street, and I'm like, okay.
It is likely for animals.
Indeed,
That makes more sense.
as you're heading near to Slaughter Street, you can actually hear the braying and the mooing of several types of animals. You also hear what appears to be...
It's hilarious.
You hear the sound of what appears to be like knives being sharpened and some grindstones being used. And you can see a lot of people stood around outside shops that have like haunches of meat hung up outside them. There's people wearing like striped aprons, arranging amounts of meat they're going to sell people for various amounts of money and passing it over to them wrapped up in what looks like leaves. And then you continue on your way. As you get to the mouth of what appears to be called Candle Alley, you continue northeast, and eventually you reach a crossroads where you can see this large square building rising up in front of you. There are red and white banners hanging down from the sides of this almost fortress-like looking stone building, and there is a large stylized depiction of a tree in silhouette on the front of the building. There are 2 men stood outside wearing long white robes. There's a small crowd of people gathered around it. As you approach, you can hear these white-robed people saying, "Yes, yes, please, come inside. Lady Cassandra is just about to give her first sermon of the day. All are welcome at the Church of Abraham, whatever faith you cling to. It is not important to us. It simply matters that you have faith. For what is life without faith? Please come inside." And they're ushering people inside.
I'll go in. I'm curious. I want to see this
not a
ritual.
problem. You walk
So,
into this large stone building. There's like a central aisle running down it, and there are rows of wooden benches all the way down it. A raised dais at the far end with like a table on it, a large book on it. You can see there's a smaller table with a stone urn or chalice of some kind sat next to it. You can see there is a sort of slightly surly looking man stood just behind the dais, who sort of arms forwarded, sort of looking up at the dais, and there's a very young looking woman with bright red hair stood on the actual dais with her hands on either side of this book, and she looks out over the crowd and says, "We were all made in the image of the gods, but the gods also take from us. They need our belief, they need our faith. It is our belief that shapes them, that makes them what they are. After all, what is a god without their worshippers? And as all gods descended from the same primal source, it is our belief that that energy, wherever you choose to find it, will bring you wisdom and peace within your life. And it is my it is my pleasure to tell you that through the worship of our Lord, who we call Abraham in honor of one of the great heroes of Ellen, that some of you may possess that very spark of divinity within you. For the gods touch us all, touch our lives in different ways. Some of you," and she throws a hand out indicating the crowd, "are blessed by the gods themselves." At which point a few people are like, "Yeah," sort of chanting. She takes out.
I look left and right.
Yeah.
Wonder which one of these guys is.
She takes out from behind this table that she stood behind what appears to be a slender white wand made of silver birch wood. It has a white crystal at each end. The crystals are carved or worked into the shape of faces. However, whereas the wand you're familiar with, Watum, has these sort of like demonic horned visages at each end, the faces that are carved out of white crystal on the end of this wand are very serene, almost beautiful, are very chiseled humanoid faces, bold, serene expressions. She holds up this wand and says, "Which of you here will test your faith with the oldest of the tools that the gods give us to see their true majesty, to see how they touch our lives in many ways?" At which point you see a few like locals like pushing each other, and they sort of push out this scruffy looking guy, and they're sort of like, "Yeah, go on, you go and see." Like, no, I'm not going up. No, you go. And one of them eventually goes, I'll go. And he walks up, he strolls down this centre aisle, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll give it a go." She says, "In which case, kneel before the chalice of Abraham." And he kneels before this stone chalice. She dips the end of the wand into the chalice. As she takes it out, you can see there's some form of liquid, clear, sort of wetting the end of the wand. And she just touches the wand gently to the man's forehead. She waits a few seconds and then says, "Ah, my friend, I'm sorry to tell you, but you have not been touched directly by the God's grace. But that does not make your faith any less important, my friend. For what is important is not who we are or where we come from. It is simply that we believe, and the actions that we take in the here and now that make us who we are. Thank you very much for being the first to step up. Please return to your seats." At which point he looks a bit bewildered and he's like, "Oh, yeah, all right then." And he waddles back over to his seat. All right.
If she's looking for more, I'm gonna go forward.
Okay, not a problem. Watum walks down the centre aisle. She looks at you, holds a hand out, smiles widely, holding her hands out wide, and then says, I sense that we have a stranger from a distant land in our midst. It is good to see people travelling. Tell me, my friend, are you a faithful man? Do you have a faith?"
Indeed. Matanwe guides me.
That is not a faith that I'm familiar with, my friend, but if it gives you strength and if it helps you in your day-to-day life and gives you guidance and peace, then all faith is equally valuable and welcome in the Church of Abraham. Will you test whether you have been touched by the gods?
Yes.
Then please kneel before the very chalice of Abraham. She gestures at this stone.
Where is this wand of hers at the moment?
She's holding it in her hand.
I want to take a close look at the material that's between the two crystal ends to see if it's the one that at least looks the same as the material of my wand.
The material that's between the two crystals appears to be like silver birch wood, so it's got a sort of white, silvery coloration to it.
So it's not this weird stone like my wand is?
No.
Okay. So I will kneel before this chalice, you said?
Yep. However, one thing you do notice about the wands is I mentioned these very sort of serene, beautiful-looking crystal faces that are carved at the end of it. Now you can actually see it a bit closer. They do actually look a little bit like the faces at the end of your own wand. Basically, if someone had taken the horns off the end of the faces of your wand and they were smiling rather than sort of frowning in demonic anger, they would look very similar.
Okay, well, so my plan is I want to talk about this when there's not a whole crowd watching, but I'm going to carry on with the ritual for the moment.
Okay.
So I will kneel before this chalice.
Okay, you kneel before this large stone chalice. From where you are now, you can see there just appears to be water in it. She dips the wand into this chalice, and she just very gently touches it on the forehead. At which point, first very dim and then getting brighter, white light seems to build up in the center of this crystal until, like, the crystal that is touching your forehead glows quite brightly. She lifts up the wand for everyone in the church to see, and you notice it start fading as soon as she moves it away from you. Says, "My friend, it is clear. Abraham, the gods have revealed that you are indeed a man strong in his faith, and that you have had experience of the divine moving through your life. You are truly blessed, my friend."
Thank you. And how might I use that knowledge?
She smiles and she sort of leans down a bit so she's level with you and in a level voice. There will be other people who have been directly affected by the divine. I plan to talk to them in private after the sermon is completed. If it is not too much trouble for you, if you would be happy to remain behind a little yourself, I would be delighted to talk to you also.
I would enjoy that.
Well, thank you. Please return to your seat.
So as I'm walking back, I mean, probably a lot of the crowd's watching, I have kind of like a stupid grin on my face.
Okay.
So does she call for more volunteers?
Yeah, she's basically saying any who wish to approach and test their faith by the will of Abraham, they do so.
I am going to stand up just out of sheer curiosity, but before I do so, I nudge Drax and say, "You're a priest, you should do this next." And then I walk up the aisle to her.
Okay, you walk up the aisle. She says, "Oh," she says, shows no hesitation due to the fact you're a half-orc, whereas you notice a lot of people sort of give you a bit of a sidelong glance. They're obviously not willing to mess with you because you're a giant half-orc, but a lot of people seem quite sort of surly in their attitudes towards you. Hardly surprising, given that orcs were rumoured to have been like the foot soldiers of the Gith many, many years ago. But she seems to have none of this sort of preconceptions about who you are. She says, "Oh, my friend, please, if you wish to test whether divinity has touched your life, please kneel before the chalice of Abraham."
I kneel before her. Like, what's in my mind an overly romantic knight pose.
Okay, she dips this wand, repeats it, dips it in the water, touches it to your forehead. However, as she touches it to your forehead, the crystal at the head of the wand slowly turns a dark black in colour, and what appears to be a red fluid starts like oozing off the end of it, so it's like running down your face where she's holding the wand. Her eyes like widen and she looks really confused.
Normal.
She
I'm
immediately
watching this from a distance. Can I tell, like, is it something I recognise?
Well, the fluid, or
just the sort of the like the process, why it's doing that.
you'd have to get a closer look at the wand and perhaps research its
Yeah.
background to be able to know that. All you know is it's had one effect on Watum and it's had a completely different effect on Audius.
Yeah.
I, however, would like to make an investigation or maybe Arcana roll for this.
Okay.
Which skill do you think is more applicable to figuring
Well,
what's going on?
What are you
What are
trying
you
to accomplish?
Yeah, what are you trying to find out?
Trying to find out what the purpose of the device is and why it's having, why would it have two reactions?
Make an Arcana roll. That's quite a difficult roll.
6. So, nope.
Okay, you've no
It's
idea
like a
what this
weird
means. But however,
Device to be, and
she pulls this wand off your head, sort of looking confused. As she takes it away, it returns to its previous white coloration. This fluid stops like leaking out of it. She looks really confused, as though this has like never happened before. However, some of the fluid does like dribble down and sort of go in the corner of your mouth. It tastes like blood.
I wipe it away with a handkerchief. Handle me.
You see her sort of look over at the surly-looking priest stood behind the lectern, and she shrugs like visibly, and he's like,
I whisper to her, just act like this is normal, please.
She nods and sort of gives you an almost sympathetic little smile, and then she says, "The gods move through us all in mysterious and different ways. My friend, you have obviously been touched by the gods in some entirely different way to that of a normal man. But thank you for coming up and testing your faith." And she actually reaches under the table, takes out like a sort of small handkerchief and passes it to you to like enable you to like finish cleaning your face. And she says, "But if you wish to stay behind and join the discussion afterwards, you're more than welcome to, my friend. In fact, I would welcome the chance to talk with you. But please, for now, please return to your seat, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the sermon." A couple of people are sort of like pointing at you and like, what's going on with that? Sort of nudging each other and sort of like.
I go through and I'm gonna look as normal as possible. Like this is just a thing.
Yeah, you strut back. So you notice a few people sort of as you walk past their eye will sort of like shuffle a bit away from you on these long benches they're sitting on.
While this is going on, Drax leans into Avastar and is like, "This is all very entertaining showmanship, but
I was thinking the same thing.
that thing is purely wrong. If these people have been in the rain, or in a storm, or been at the sea, they've felt the touch of my Lord. They're all blessed."
It
It's
is
fun
very
to watch
good
them.
of you to think that. I am quite interested to see what will happen if I knelt before that chalice, since I'm not really a believer in anything, but obviously I have talents.
Just because you don't believe in the divine, that does not mean the divine does not believe in you, Avastar. I was chosen for this task, and I only had myself and nothing helping me.
But surely you do not believe that all the gods are equal.
Well, of course not. But just because we all sail different ships, Watum, doesn't mean we cannot get along, so to speak.
Well, there's only one way to
Agreed.
find out. And I get up at...
But some may be more blessed than others.
Well, surely.
Okay, you head up to the front. There's a couple of other people have headed up as well, and you're all seen in your turn. She repeats the ritual. When she touches the wand to your forehead, Avastar, nothing happens with it. It doesn't light up. It doesn't go black and drip blood. It just stays as it is. She says, "Ah, my friend, I can see that unfortunately you have not been touched directly by the will of the divine. However, that does not make your faith or your contribution to this world any less important. Please do not think that. Thank you very much for coming up and sharing your faith. If you do not mind me asking, my friend, what is it that you actually believe in?
I believe in my own abilities. I obviously got them from an ancestor, and I was not given them lightly, so I intend to use them and harness them and get better at them.
That sounds like a very wise goal. Thank you for coming up and displaying your faith. But please return to your seat. I hope you enjoy the rest of the sermon.
Maybe when I get better, I can knock at the gods' doors harder.
She smiles.
And I swoop off.
Okay, not a problem. The sermon continues for about an hour, so it finishes about sort of 11 a.m. It's generally exalting people that just sitting in a temple and praying, ironically, isn't going to bring you closer to the divine. The Church of Abraham seems to preach that whatever God you believe in, you display your belief in the gods and your worthiness to them by your actions. Basically saying that the most pious of men, who never steps outside the doors of his temple and spends all his time locked in contemplation, does not make the world a better place, and he does not honour the divine by what he does. Whereas the simple labourer who works in the field to feed his family each day, even if he does not pray very often, by his actions he honours those gods that oversee the world. And that's the general gist of the sermon. Eventually, about, like I say, about 11 a.m, it starts winding to a close. A few people start filtering out. There's about half a dozen or so of these locals who've been touched by the divine who are remaining behind. What are you guys doing?
What is this staying behind gathering she was talking about with the rest of you?
Can I figure out, John, I don't know if it requires a roll or not, is that if I start preaching about my Big Daddy Nord, is this a sort of like a religion faux pas in here?
Well, I won't make you make a roll. However, you know that during the sermon they've been talking about the fact that they believe all divinity is the same. It's just how people's perceptions choose to colour it. So whether you worship Njord or Poseidon or one of the other gods of the sea, it's all the same thing. It's just your perception that makes it individual to you. So you don't think they'd take offence.
Okay, so what Drax will do then is he'll look around the room and look for people who think that they have been, shall we say, they think the light of the divine has not fallen upon their shoulders, and he will approach them. He'll say to them that just because that wand didn't glow for you doesn't mean you haven't felt the touch of one of the gods. If you're ever in doubt, he hands him like one of these conch shells, and it's got like an N with like a trident through it. You know, it'll always protect you if you need such protection.
One of the people who you sort of give this conch to sort of nods and says, "Oh, well, that's they seem a little bit taken aback, because obviously you're a massive dragonborn, but they're like, oh, that's right generous of you, sir. Thanks very much." Well, yeah, to be honest, sir, I'm not going to lose any sleep over whatever that thing is not glowing when it touched my head. You know, it's not going to really impact my life in any way, is it? I didn't think I was blessed by the gods before. I don't think I'm blessed by the gods now. And they steadily start dispersing and leaving the church, leaving just this small group behind, which I'm guessing probably includes Watum, Audius, and Avastar.
Yeah, I'm going to try and pick a moment when we can expect, relative privacy from other public members of the public. And I want to go and chat with her.
Okay,
yeah,
no problem.
I'll follow you.
Okay, can the two of you, Audius and Watum, can you please make me perception rolls?
6.
17.
Okay, both of you, as you're walking over, you can see that Lady Cassandra is now stood behind this dais. She stepped off the back of it, and she's talking with this slightly surly, sort of bold priest who has a scar down one side of his face. He's like, really, do you think that some of these people are are touched by the divine, really, she sort of holds up her hand and says, it's not for me to decide whether these people have been touched by the divine or not. It is for the gods to decide. And through their instrument, she sort of holds up this wand that's still in her hand. They have revealed to us that some of these people may be destined for greater things. At which point, that's when they see you two walking over and they quickly stop speaking.
I would speak with you privately regarding the ceremony and what happened, as well as that wand of yours.
Oh yes, by all means. I'm only in Battlebridge until the end of this month. Unfortunately, the demands of the faith, I am needed elsewhere. But yes, for the moment I'm here, I'm happy to talk to you about this divine instrument.
Perhaps we should speak somewhere more privately, being in the center of a large room.
Yes, of course. She turns around to this bold priest and says, Father, would you please make our other guests comfortable while I speak to these gentlemen? And she gestures to like a small side door that heads into like a priest's quarters at the side of this large tent. She says, please walk over here. There are some comfortable chairs in there. You can sit down a bit. I know we can't have plush chairs in here due to the expense, but I know those benches aren't particularly comfortable. And she leads you into this small room. There are indeed sort of comfortable leather chairs in there, a small wooden table.
So I make it clear to my companions they can, they're free to accompany me. I'd be happy with that. And then I'm going to follow her in, and I must ask about this wand of yours, please. I need to know. I've traveled a long way to discover more of these wands, and I show her mine. I whip out my wand.
She looks at it and sort of holds out her hand and says, do you mind if I have a closer look at it?
No, I don't. I'd let her.
She takes it off you and she examines and she says, well, these are indeed fearsome aspects that are worked into each end of it. It does look similar to the one that I possess, although the faces are something terrible to behold on this one.
When did you acquire your one?
It was gifted to me by High Father Aesop of the Church of Abraham. When I began my
where
travels,
is this High Father?
He mostly remains in the village. He remains in the village that is named after our patron, as you might like to call it, the village of Abraham.
Would speak with him at some time. Does he ever come to Battlebridge? Or do I know if that's far away?
It's about... Abraham's about
in the area.
50 miles away. It's in the area, but it's about 50 miles away.
Okay.
She says, alas, the High Father is somewhat advanced in years. He doesn't travel as much. In previous years, he did used to travel about. However, this year, he's finally had to accept that he's not a young man anymore, and so the privilege of travelling around and meeting and preaching to good people like yourself about the will of the divine has passed to me this year. This is my first year of travelling and meeting those of the faith.
Still, I would speak with this High Father. Perhaps you could write a brief letter to help facilitate introductions to him. This is an important quest to me.
I'm sure no letter will be necessary. The High Father is always more than happy to speak to people who have faith and who have belief. He was heartbroken that he couldn't continue with his journeys to meet all of these different people. He was very well travelled in his youth, and I know he misses it dearly.
Thank you. Before I leave, might I see your wand briefly?
Yes, of course, and she holds it out towards you. You see it as described previously, silver birchwood, two white crystal, beautiful looking faces, one at each end.
Okay, so I'm comparing weight. I'm comparing like the length. Does it seem to be like part of the same set, or is it just sort of similar? The carving, was this carved by the same person or a different person? That kind of thing.
It looks very, very similar to yours, as though it was. If it wasn't constructed by the same person, it was definitely constructed by someone who used exactly the same sort of techniques. Like I say, the main difference is the carvings of the faces. Hers are beatific and serene, whereas obviously yours are sort of scowling and demonic.
Do I get any sense at all from the wand? Any kind of hint of attitude or emotion?
You don't get any sense of emotion. However, as you're holding like both of the wands, one in each hand, as you sort of bring your hands together, you try and push two magnets together and they like repel each other. You feel a very similar sensation as though the two wands are trying to not be brought near to each other.
Interesting. And they do kind of look opposite with the smiles versus the frown. All right. So I'm going to note all this. Thank you.
Okay.
You have helped me indeed. This is perhaps the most progress I've made in my quest since I left my hometown. I'm glad to have met you.
And I likewise. After all, it's one of the benefits of traveling around and meeting different people is that if you're cloistered away in a small village, much as I love the people in my home village of Abraham, you only see their views of the world. Whereas since we believe that divinity is in everything, in order to fully appreciate it, you must listen to the views of different people and people from faraway places if you want to truly appreciate the breadth and majesty of the divine hand at work within this world.
I trust in Matanwe to guide my path and lead me to where I need to be, as he has undoubtedly led me to you, and now to the High Father. Again, I thank you. I'm going to ask my companion. So you go ahead.
No, fine. Feel free. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm going to ask my companions. Is there anything else you would wish to ask of this woman? What did you say? That broke
yes. I believe I'm the only one here.
Well, I didn't leave. I'm just asking you. Yeah, I didn't leave. I'm just asking you guys if there's anything else you think I should ask.
I would have come, well, Drax would have come with, unless he was told otherwise, that he wasn't welcome.
Okay, so for convenience sake, I'm going to say you are all in this room with the priest. What is Audius saying to her?
Okay. What the hell was that with the wand? Why did it bleed?
She smiles a little sympathetically and says, to be honest, my friend, if I knew, I would certainly tell you, but I've never witnessed anything like that occur before. When normally we dip it in the sacred waters in the chalice, we touch it to the forehead of people. If the crystal glows with the white radiance that you saw when I delivered it to the forehead of your friend there, and she gestures upward to him, then we believe that person has been touched by the divine, or the divine presence is particularly strong in their life. If the crystal remains as it is, then that person, as with your other friend, and she gestures at Avastar, then we believe that person has not yet been particularly influenced by the divine. They have not felt the hand of the divine in their life. I have never seen it darken or bleed as it did when it touched you. I'm as much in the dark as yourself, my friend. I'm mystified. I intend that the next time I see a more senior member of my order, I will certainly ask them about this, but it's the first I've heard of anything. When the High Father gave me this wand, and he used to carry it himself when he travelled about, and he instructed me in its use, he never mentioned anything about it darkening or bleeding.
Is there something you're not telling us, Audius?
I just scowl at you. Now,
I give Avastar a knowing look, like in a small nod.
Would you let our friend hold the staff and see if it has a different effect?
I'm certainly willing for him to hold the wand. However, the wand itself does not display the touch of the divine unless it has been dipped in the sacred waters of Abraham's chalice. Although it does occur to me, I'm sorry to interrupt you, my friend. It does occur to me I would be most interested, given that your friend possesses a wand similar to mine, to see what the effects of that being dipped in the sacred water would be.
But Tommy has already guided me to this conclusion. I was to ask if you would spare some of this blessed Abraham water, that I might see for myself.
Alas, once the water leaves the chalice, it is no longer blessed. It is the chalice itself, rumoured to have once been possessed by Abraham himself, one of the great heroes of the Gith conflict many hundreds of years ago. It is the chalice itself that is blessed. The water placed in it becomes blessed while it remains in the chalice. I have no objection to you testing your wand.
Indeed. Perhaps you would like to witness the results of such yourself.
She actually claps her hands together and says, yes, I would very much like to. As I say, I'm still learning. I'm not yet as advanced and as wise as High Father Aesop, but any information that I can take back to him about the faith, something new, would I feel lift his heart. Like I say, he's greatly saddened by the fact that he cannot travel abroad anymore. And
yeah, I'm eager to do that.
She turns back to you, audience, and says, I'm sorry for interrupting, my friend. Was there anything else you wish to ask me?
Yes, but I think can wait till after we witness this.
Okay, yes, of course. She says, just so as not to confuse people, I think it might be better if I go and retrieve the chalice and bring it in here in private when we do this. I fear people have already been confused enough by the effect.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'll be back in a few moments. I just need to say a few words to people. I'll be back in a few minutes. And she heads out, shuts the door behind her, leaving you guys alone for a few minutes if you wish to converse or do anything.
This will look pretty agitated.
But Tomb,
process.
Has your wand ever done anything similar to this in the time you've had it?
It has not. At most, there is a small tingle when I work my magic through it, but...
If you are nervous, Audius, I could offer you a small blessing in preparation for this, right? If you feel it is uncomfortable.
No thanks.
Are you sure? You look somewhat on edge.
I don't think a blessing would help.
You may be surprised. The great Lord can protect even such as you.
Okay, I don't think a blessing from your god would help.
Perhaps this evening, when we are back within the comfort of the tavern, we can discuss possible reasons for what happened to you today. Indeed, this very experiment might shed some light upon that.
Okay. After a few minutes, Lady Cassandra comes in. She's holding this big stone chalice in both of her hands, and she sets it down on the small wooden table in the centre of the room. You see she's carrying it very reverently and very carefully so as not to spill any of the water. It's quite full of water, and she sets it down very gently with great reverence on the table. And then she sits down on one of the chairs.
I am unfamiliar with the ritual. Perhaps you would conduct it? I'll hand her my wand.
She takes off and says, yes, of course, I'll be happy to. And she lifts it up, she looks at your wand a little, and then she dips the edge of your wand into the water. As it moves into the water, and you're all obviously sort of gathered around so you can all see it, the water appears to go almost thick and viscous in consistency. The colour of the water starts to darken and turn like a deep crimson or red. You see Cassandra's eyes like widen as she's...
Now, when she did this ritual the first time, didn't she dip it and then touch it to me?
She did, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to hold up my hand and she can touch it to me again and, complete the ritual and see what happens.
Okay, she takes it out, and as she does, you can see that the water on the end of it now looks more like blood staining the end of it, and she touches it to your forehead, there, aside from like a little red splotch on your forehead, there's no visible signs of it altering. Those of you who are looking back at the chalice, you notice as soon as the wand is taken out of it, the water returns to its previous colourless state.
Maybe try it again on me, which I thought we were doing.
I'll stand back and let her. Yeah, go for it.
She dips it in again, and again the water becomes as blood when the wand enters it. She takes it out and very gingerly touches it to your forehead, Audius. As she does, you notice what appear to be flames licking around the wand, sort of like reddish flames. They don't actually burn you, they just flicker on the end of the wand, and then she quickly takes it away as though she's worried she's going to set fire to you, and the flames just die off and disappear.
As the flames are dancing around, Audius has said I'd like to detect magic. I'm curious as to what kind of school of magic this is.
Okay, not a problem. You can certainly do that.
I don't need to roll anything, it just happens.
Okay, not a problem. You're definitely sensing magic coming from it. You see a faint aura around, and as you look around it, you get the smell of brimstone drifting up to your nostrils, and you can hear, as though it's echoing in the distance, the sound of screaming.
Okay, now I'm really worried.
Do you show that?
As she takes the wand away from it...
I'd say that.
Yeah, as she takes the wand away, the screaming that only Avastar has been able to hear and the smell of brimstone fades away, as do the flames. Although, looking at Cassandra Avastar, you can tell that she's also heard it by the way she sort of like cocked her head when the screaming went off.
Have you...
Lady Cassandra, yesterday I banished a devil from inhabiting the body of a young guy.
She nods.
Do you think this could have had a lingering effect?
I'm no expert on such entities, but as the divine, the touch of the divine lingers about people and may be detected, I would hazard a guess that the touch of darker forces would also have a lingering presence. Perhaps that is what your friend's instrument is detecting.
So maybe Legion's wonders for detecting dark influence.
Perhaps so.
Do you think it
Interesting.
would be its purpose?
Well, I do remember that when High Father Aesop gave me
nod.
my own wand, and she passes you your wand backward to him. I remember when High Father Aesop gave me my own wand, he said that he believed the purpose of this instrument that he was given by his master upon his death, it was bequeathed to him. He believed that the purpose of this was to help bring the light of the divine into the everyday lives of the people. That's why he insisted that it be taken out amongst the common people and not simply locked away in some noble's vault as a curiosity.
Is that so?
Just,
That makes me
interesting.
fearful.
So once you leave Battlebridge, you'll try talk with your peers about.
Well, indeed, I'm planning on visiting some other settlements in the area, the village of Curdell, the village of Bethan. I may even go up to the Blackstone Fortress, see if there's anyone willing to listen to the words of Abraham there. And once I've completed that circuit, I will then make my way back to my home village, where I hope to tell High Father Aesop everything that I've seen and experienced on the way.
Okay, so I get out a piece of paper and write down on it, and well, if you would like to just send like a messenger with a letter, you could send it to this address. And I give her the address of Antheus's tower, and I'll probably ask him if it's okay if I use him as a mailing address.
You're pretty sure, knowing that Antheus has an insatiable curiosity about all things slightly strange, he's probably not going to object to that. She thanks you and she takes a piece of paper and says, "Well, thank you very much. So I can contact you here if I wish to."
Or at the Common Sword, where I'm currently staying, but I can't promise I'll be staying there forever.
Oh, well, no, of course not. No one can guarantee anything forever. Only the light of true divinity is eternal. We are all unfortunately finite. We all must pass from this world as those who came before us have. The only thing we can hope to do in our time here is leave some form of lasting legacy for those who follow on from us. She folds up the piece of paper and she tucks it in a small pouch that's hanging from her belt and smiles at you.
Well, I bow to her and thank you for your time, Lady Cassandra.
Oh, not at all. It's always a pleasure to meet new people and to speak to people whose experiences of the divine differ from my own.
My stopping here was most illuminating.
I'm pleased for me as well. It has been a most strange and enlightening morning. Although I fear it's getting on towards noon now, given the time we've spent talking here.
I must admit, I am a bit fearful. If your wand's purpose is, as you say, to bring light to the people, that bodes ill for the purpose of this wand. And there are 4 others like it.
Her eyes widen when you say that. She says, 4? Are you sure?
We found 5 in total in the caves near my village. Each of my siblings has been given one, dispatched to different parts of the lands to find their purpose.
She looks thoughtful and pensive for a few moments, and then says, "It's odd you should say that. When High Father Aesop bequeathed me this wand, since the Church of Abraham is widespread in Tulov, we have houses in many different lands. My mentor, the High Father, told me that his brothers had 4 wands that matched this one and did the same thing."
I am curious as to what would happen should these wands touch. Would you be willing to try? It may result in their destruction.
She looks a little uncertain. She says, I am interested, but this was a gift from the head of my order. I'm loath to risk its destruction simply to satisfy my curiosity. Although I am interested.
I understand. Perhaps it may come to that. Perhaps not.
She nods and says, "Well, for what it is worth, my friend, I hope that if the purpose of your instrument is to bring some form of darkness into the world, then you are strong in your faith in Watonwe, did you say?"
Watonwe.
Watonwe. I hope that your faith is strong enough to enable you to master this instrument and be the guardian of it so that it does not bring any darkness into the world. The world is such a dark place already. It does not need any more evil in it.
My people had hoped that these wands might show a way to prevent the gift from ever being able to return. Now, it seems they may do the opposite.
Well, we know that, I'm speaking, of course, of my own instrument. I cannot speak for yours. I know that mine is only only sheds the light of the divine when it has been dipped in the blessed waters. It does nothing at any other point. Perhaps if you are to keep yours from meeting with any such fluid in the future, it may remain harmless and inert. I know that's not much comfort, but it's the best I have to offer.
I would hope it has a greater purpose, but Matanme will guide me. I will find out. I thank you for your time.
Not at all. It is very clear to me now why my own wand illuminated when it touched your forehead. I can see that you are indeed a person who is strong in his faith. It has been a pleasure to speak to you, to all of you.
So I'm ready to leave. I don't know about the rest.
I bound thank Sandra again.
Okay.
I shove my hands in my robe pockets and I start heading out.
Okay, no problem. You will head out.
As I'm leaving though, do I see the balding priest with the scar?
You do indeed. He stood chatting to all the other people, saying, "Look, I'm sure Lady Cassandra will have finished her business in a moment, and she'll be apt to talk to all of you. If you just all please indulge us and wait for a few moments, I'm sure she'll be out."
Okay, so if I hear him saying that, I'll walk up to them and say, "Well, she's finished with her business now," in kind of the hopes that the crowd will like move away from him.
Yeah, they well, I'll tell you what. Make me an intimidation roll. It's a very easy roll given what they've just witnessed.
10.
Yeah, that's fine. As you walk up and say, "Wow, she's down with that business now," they all sort of scoot away from you and busy themselves elsewhere, leaving just this scar-faced priest stood there next to yourself, Audius.
So, I take it you're the one in charge of this temple normally?
He says, "Yes, Father Arete."
I shake his hand if he gives it. So I heard that your church roof was in need of repair?
Yes, we've been collecting donations for it. During the last storm, a few of the tiles got blown off the roof, and it's letting a bit of water in. But I'm hoping we'll be able to get it dealt with soon.
How much will it cost?
Oh, it's only minor damage, no more than 10 gold pieces.
Okay, I give him 10 gold pieces.
He looks and says, "Oh, bless you, sir. Thank you very much. With this, we'll be able to get the roof repaired in a matter of days. Thank you." And he sort of shakes you warmly by the hand.
No problem. No problem at all. And yeah, I exchange pleasantries, then tell him my name, and then I leave.
Okay, not a problem.
On the way back, as we're walking, the next step I must follow is to visit this town of Abraham. But, ashes, as does Matanwe, when our business is concluded in this town, only then will I seek to go there.
It might be possible to start a letter correspondence with him.
Does anyone else have
Right,
business here in this town? What are you saying? Send a letter? Is that what I said?
Yeah, you can send a letter.
I will do that to tell him to expect my arrival. To have business in Battlebridge. I believe Avastar has a ball in 2 days.
So you're cutting out.
I believe 4 or 3. The ball out, sir.
You have a ball to attend to here.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not quite sure how many days it is at the minute. So I'll ask John when he gets back.
3.
Oh, okay. In that case, I say yes, I do. I have 3 days. Gosh, I should I should probably purchase some new clothes.
I'm sure there are plenty of vendors in this town that can help you with that.
Well,
Yeah.
if anyone...
Did you get an invitation? Like a physical invitation?
Ooh, that's a very good point. I may have to check my room. But nevertheless, I could do with some new robes.
Okay, so what are you guys up to?
We were discussing the
Tashif
ball in
just-
3 weeks.
Yeah, Tashif just brought up that is there like a written invitation that was sent to me?
It was indeed.
Cute. Okay. In that case, yeah, Avastar kind of is getting a bit frantic and stressed because he's just realised that it's only 3 days until this ball, so he's going to go shopping.
Okay, not a problem.
Could I take a look at the invitation?
Yep, you can indeed. It's an invitation to the Lascaris estate, which is 5 miles to the northeast of Battlebridge. It says Avastar Foliage and his entourage is invited cordially to a ball to be held at the House Lascaris estate.
Okay, I'm assuming Avastar actually showed Kortis this?
Yeah, I would have shown it to you.
You can see that it's very well calligraphy. There's quite sort of curly, cursive handwriting, and at the bottom it is signed, cordially invited by Eurasian, manservant to Helena Lascaris.
The invitation is still open, Audius, if you wish to come along, but you'll have to be good.
From what I hear, you're not as well regarded in that circle either. That noble we ran into last night is telling the truth.
Well, it's up to you. But I intend to enjoy myself.
It seems I will have to purchase a new suit then.
Yes, yes, you would actually. And I start sort of looking him up and down.
Okay, yeah, unsurprisingly, he's not kitted out at the moment for a noble soiree.
Well, you are invited to accompany me if you wish. If shopping for clothes isn't too boring.
Yeah,
for
you said.
No,
No
I mean
worry.
for shopping.
I have a habit of making things interesting. Oh, right.
Does the dress code stop you from taking arms as well, Avastar?
John, can I check that as well?
You would know. Well, in fact, make me a history roll.
Ooh,
This
okay,
is for people who specifically have experience of noble households.
For Drax does not have much experience with this folk, but he would not begrudge the chance to meet some more.
I got a grand total of 4. So I have no idea about this house's etiquette or whatever.
You don't know about this specific house, however, you do know generally that people are permitted to carry like a small weapon, like a dagger or something, just for self-defense. But anything larger is frowned on because it's seen as a statement of you're going there expecting trouble, whereas a dagger is just seen as a natural precaution or a decoration.
Yeah, okay.
You would know amongst the circles you've moved, a lot of the nobles actually go to great lengths to have like really sort of immaculately crafted and very sort of fancy daggers, so they're almost making them into an ornament rather than an actual weapon. It's more sort of ceremonial.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm going to head to a tailor.
Okay, not a problem. Now, having been in Battlebridge for a while, you will know that most of the sort of high-class places are in the southern end of Battlebridge, which is where pretty much all the nobles live.
What would I know what price range a suit like that would cost?
You're talking sort of if you're just looking for a modest one, like not a really stupidly like fancy one, you're talking probably about 8 silver pieces.
And stupidly fancy.
Okay, if you want to go for like a really, really sort of fancy one, you're probably talking a couple of gold pieces.
Then. Alright. So, what about Drax and Watum? Do they want to go to a tailor?
Okay, Drax, what do you think about this whole affair? Are you going to a tailor's with them?
Yes. Although Drax is not sure if he would need a suit. Surely the attire of his patron is, representation enough. Would I need some kind of history roll to know if stomping around in armor would be unwise?
No, you do not require any roll. It will certainly be frowned upon.
Frowned upon, and it would make Avastar look bad?
Well, if you're going as part of Avastar's retinue or entourage, it stands to reason that any faux pas on your behalf would reflect on Avastar himself.
Then he will act in good faith and go with.
Okay, not a problem.
Good.
While we're at the tailor, I'm going to ask Avatar's opinion on what robes would be appropriate for such a ball. I am not used to such things. Say, looking down at these very sort of African-like robes I'm wearing.
Maybe a bit less practical, since you don't have to move around so much. Lots of colour, but they have to go with what else you're wearing. Got to make sure that it suits you, that it's well fitted.
I point to the racks. Perhaps you could suggest something.
Oh, certainly. Maybe something blue or purple would suffice.
Whatever she recommends, I'm just going to buy. I'm just going, assuming it fits. Or these guys can probably custom fit it if it's expensive. I have no judgment for this, so I'm just going to go on whatever her his recommendation.
Okay, it's taken you a couple of hours. It's about sort of 3 in the afternoon now to get to the southern end of the city. As you head into the southern part, this little peninsula over the South Bridge, you enter this. The streets are far cleaner here. All the buildings are made of stone rather than wood. They have more floors to them. Everywhere looks a little grander. As you head over the South Bridge, heading in a southwesterly direction, you find yourself confronted by what appears to be a large market. However, unlike the northern market of the city, you can see that this one is in full use. There are people bustling about. However, it's not your normal sort of market that you'd expect. Even the stalls here look incredibly fancy. You can see noblemen with servants trailing after them walking through this market. Some of them actually being carried on those sort of like palanquin-style chairs by footmen, so they don't have to walk on the streets themselves. You can see bolts of luxurious fabric on these various market stalls. There's none of the shouting and jeering you would expect from a market. Everyone seems quite polite.
So what are they selling here? We'll take a look around.
Okay, most of the stuff in this market does appear to be very fancy garments, jewellery. There's some small amounts of weaponry here, although again it's more sort of ornamental weaponry and rapiers and things like that, rather than the sort of serviceable weaponry you might buy from a more traditional armourers or weaponsmiths.
I'm going to.
So do we purchase from one of these stalls, or do we go to like a proper tailor at a shop?
That is entirely down to you. There are garment sellers in this market, or you can press on and look around for a more dedicated shop. It is entirely up to you.
I'm basically going to go up to one of the stalls, feel the fabric on the sort of display, and say, "Oh no, that's far too basic and bitty. I'm going to go to a tailor and get mine done."
A gentleman with like a slick down moustache, very tan skin. He's wearing a white silk outfit. Comes over to her and says, "My dear sir, I do assure you, these are the finest cloth that Al Malnacar has to offer. Imported at no small expense by myself."
These are more itchy than my nightwear.
"Oh, really, sir? Surely you jest. You must be a prince if you have nightwear such as this."
I'm not a prince, but I have clothes very well made, I suppose.
"Indeed, although if you don't mind me saying so, sir, your clothes do have the air of having travelled long."
Oh yes, because they are my travelling clothes. They are more practical. However, I and my group here are looking for far nicer clothes to wear to a ball.
"Oh, well, of course, it would depend on the amount of money you're willing to part with, sir. If expense is no object, as is the case with a lot of my customers, I can certainly show you some of my finer items. I generally don't have them on display here, since, of course, even in the southern part of Battlebridge, which is blessed with good fortune, not everyone can afford the more expensive wares on my store."
They must be very good, or perhaps you are simply overpricing them. May I take a look at some of your more expensive robes?
"I'm afraid I will have to ask for some proof that you are capable of paying for them, sir, before I bring them out. After all, exposing such fine fabrics to the dirty air in the streets of Battlebridge may dirty them and may render them less sellable to other noble patrons such as
You are going very
Do you
far
not know
down
who
my
this is?
estimation.
Okay,
You
well, to you say, "Do you
insult
not know who this is?"
Do
He
you not
looks at you and
I washed
He's-
this morning.
he smiles broadly and looks at you, Witum, and says, "No, my friend, I'm afraid I have no idea who this person is."
I am of House Tholage.
He is a
"Oh,
noble.
House Tholage. House Tholage, a wise... a wise and well-regarded house, of course. But saying you are from House Tholage is not the same as demonstrating that you are from House Tholage," he says, wringing his hands together, still smiling broadly as though the smile's painted on his face.
Right, well, I am no longer interested if you're going to be so pedantic. If you cannot see that I'm a noble just by looking at me, well, you can't be a very good merchant.
Well, it is a sad... As you walk off, he says, "It is a sad fact of the modern world, so that many people seek to ape and imitate those who are high-born. You cannot blame an honest merchant like myself for simply wishing some proof that a person is willing to part with the necessary funds to buy such fine items as these."
His station is proof enough. Do you not see how he carries himself?
I'm going off to a tailor.
I agree, yeah. Okay.
Sold
I'm
that.
with you.
I was
Just lost a couple of tails.
Yeah, I was already trying to find a tailor under the logic that they probably don't just stock clothing for 7-foot tall half orcs.
It is a specialist market.
Merchants like that can be very clever. They also, I have noticed actually, they sometimes get maybe one or two very good quality garments and put them either side of many not so well made garments all on a nice rack, and then they show you the one on the end, but then they pick out one from the middle. It's
Okay,
devious.
as you guys continue southwards down a road that's signposted as Patrician Walk, you pass by a large building that's on your left-hand side. Avastar, your attention is particularly drawn to a swinging wooden sign which has very nicely carved details of a huge bunch of grapes, and it's varnished on the front of it.
A wine cellar. Well, I haven't had a good wine
Perhaps
in a while,
after we
but... Yes, I was going to say afterwards.
Procured our clothes.
Clothes are the high priority here.
Okay, not a problem.
Yeah.
You reach a crossroads as you're facing south. you can see, as you look to your left towards the east, there is what appears to be a large and very expensive looking inn of some sort at the end of the road, and off to the right are a number of other stone buildings.
I didn't know there was another inn.
Yeah, there are probably several in this town. It is quite large. I'm happy to follow her to the tailor and just make my purchase.
Okay, not a problem. Abastar, can you please make me an investigation roll, and Audius, because you're a bit in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 19.
8.
Okay, not a problem. Moving a bit ahead of them, Audius, you head towards the east in the direction of this inn, since you've spotted that the building before it here has a couple of sort of immaculately carved wooden tables outside it, and you can see there are a number of fine garments laid out on the table. There is a thin-looking gentleman who, actually, judging from the slight point of his ears, might be a half-elf, stood out the front. He smiles at you warmly as you walk down the road towards him, Audius. He says, "Good afternoon to you, my friend."
This is
Someone
more
with a
like
friendly
it.
disposition.
Well done,
Yeah.
Audius.
Good afternoon to you as well.
And what can I do for a strapping gentleman like yourself on this fine morning?
He is no gentleman.
Looking for clothes for... on the contrary, I can be very gentle. But, looking for more fine attire.
Well, please step inside my establishment. I have the finest elven silks procured at no small expense from the forest kin of the Folaith Forest. Please, won't you step inside and have a look for yourself? I will leave the quality to your own judgment, sir.
Now this is a merchant.
So I look around, and which one was the elf? It was a Cadwell? The 3Brothers?
It was Cordelia.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm gonna do for picking out clothing is I'm gonna try and make a history check to see if I know what kind of clothing or colors were associated with him, since this is an elven place. And
I will say, you know, that Cadell was actually a woman. You don't have to make a roll.
Okay. Yeah. We're associated with her for that.
Okay,
And assuming
yeah,
that such a great hero would have been like a trendsetter.
Okay, since you phrased it like that, I will give you advantage on this roll, since you know what you're looking for.
So if this is history, that is a 19. Oh, 18,
okay.
Sorry.
You know that Cadell, from the legends you remember, Cadell was of the forest kin of the Folaith, and they have a very naturalistic colour palette. They're very in tune with nature, so it's muted greens, browns, the occasional accent of blue to represent the waters that flow through the Folaith.
So I'm going to be mentioning like those kind of facts to the salesman, the merchant, and see if he kind of like agrees that that's like how the style is.
He says, "My friend, I can see that you have a superb eye. Yes, you are absolutely right. The woodland colour palette is indeed favoured by the forest kin of the Folaith, and it has been for many, many years, since the time of the 3Brothers. It's a timeless classic, sir. Like I say, I can see you have a good eye."
I think I'll take those darker and lighter green colours then.
If you do not mind me asking, I apologise if this seems a touch indelicate, my friend. How much are you looking to spend on a garment? I simply want to be able to supply you with something that fits your needs.
Around 2 to 3 gold.
Then I have just a thing for you. I'm afraid I may have to alter it slightly. It's not really that the Forestkin are not known for being of your stature, but I can certainly alter garments. That is absolutely fine. He said, please, would you follow me? And he leads you. This is almost like a sort of warehouse with these garments hanging in large aisles as he leads you through. And he takes you through a number of these aisles and eventually says, there, my friend, what do you think of that? And he gestures to what appears to be a sort of a white sort of, I suppose, like kaftan style outfit. However, as the light falls on it, you can see it appears to like shimmer in an almost like silvery colour, and you can see that embroidered into it in greens and browns are like these trailing vines and leaf designs curling all over it.
That looks amazing.
I'm afraid it is a little bit more expensive than you asked for. It is, since I would have to alter it quite substantially to fit yourself. It's made for someone who is, again, I don't mean seeming delicate. It's made for someone who is thinner of frame than yourself. It would cost 3 gold pieces, I'm afraid. If it is too expensive, I understand.
Since you'd be making alterations anyway, I think I can justify that price if you were able to, say, loosen up this area here and that area enough so I could move around freely. You see, I'm not very used to wearing this kind of clothing.
Well, I believe, sir, if I was to flute the sleeves slightly and put some discreet cuts in the garment here, obviously I would sew up and embroider the cuts so they appeared as part of the garment. I believe it would be within my ability to make it so that you could move more freely. And the fabric, as you can feel from the finery of the fabric, sir, it is very light indeed. I do not believe that would be beyond my humble abilities, sir. It would, however, take me a day to make the necessary alterations.
That's actually perfect. And I give him the 3 gold.
He takes a 3 gold off you. He shouts out.
Yeah,
he says, "Tell him on. Where are you?" And a young human boy comes out and he says, "Yes, sir. Would you be kind enough to take this money to the back room? I'll need use of of my garment alteration tools to alter this beautiful outfit for this fine gentleman here." "Oh yes, of course, sir." And he runs off with them and he said, "Would you like me to get your needles and threads ready, sir?" "Yes, of course. The silver needle, I think, my boy. Only the finest for this fine gentleman here." "Oh yes, of course." And he runs off down one of these aisles and disappears.
So, yeah. Just the last thing I'm personally doing here would be I want to write up a bill of sale with him.
Yeah, that's not a problem. He's all prepared to do that. Okay. Does anyone else have anything they wish to do with this garment seller? As you guys,
I'm just going to.
I was just going to say, you guys sort of catch up just as Audius is like concluding his sale.
I'm just going to get Avastar to suggest half a dozen outfits, and I'll pick one that's a tan or a brown color.
Decisions.
Okay, no problem. If you're looking for something not too fancy, it'll cost you about 8 silver pieces in here.
I'm going to throw a gold piece as well for a pair of shoes.
Okay, not a problem. He provides you with a fine garment in the tones you've asked for. There seems to be an extensive range in this store. The salesman, the half-elf, is chatting to you as he's selling you these items. And he says, "Yes, I like to think that here at Arios we have the finest selection of garments that the Folate has to offer. Sometimes when I look at some of the quite frankly, I don't mean to speak ill of the traders, but the quite frankly shoddy merchandise that is passed off by some of the less reputable traders in this city, it could almost move me to tears, sir."
Well, I'm not really going to trust either garment seller, but I am going to trust Avastar's word. So whatever he recommends is kind of what I'm going to go with.
Okay, no problems.
Well, any of these would look very nice on you. These would also be fine. I am having trouble deciding, to be honest. I could be in here for hours.
As you're saying this, you notice that Drax has obviously stood off to one side. As you're talking to Avastar with whom, the salesman Arios walks over to Drax and he looks up at you because he's quite short. He looks up at you and he says, "And you, my friend, I think it would be a travesty to lay a heavy garment on you. Look at the beauty of the lustrous copper of these scales. How would I find a garment to adequately frame your natural beauty, my friend?"
It's kind of you to say so, sir, but I've been told that to meet the requirements of this occasion, so gesturing at Avastar, I must come appropriately attired. Do you believe you have something that would fit my sturdy frame, as you have my friend?
My friend, for you, if you will permit me to say so, I believe I have something which will allow you to display your natural physique and your natural beauty, whilst also preserving your modesty. It's a little daring, I admit, but if you will bear with me, I do have a great deal of experience in the garment industry. I supply all of the nobles of Southern Battlebridge. I've had a number of people in for, I don't know if you're aware, a house full of Scaris are holding a ball in a few days' time. I've had numerous nobles come in here looking for outfits. I presume you're all buying masks for the ball if you're heading there. I'm guessing that's where you're going.
Of course.
It's a masquerade.
Yes, that's right. It is a masquerade. But normally one chooses the full outfit and then chooses the mask from that.
Being ignorant of this kind of attire, Drax asks, can you provide the masks as well? Do you give the full suit,
Well,
shall we
yes,
say?
of course, we provide a full service here at my establishment. As I say, I've got an idea for you. It's a little bit daring, but if you please come with me, and he indicates for you to follow him down these aisles of garments, and he leads you towards what's basically like a sarong, a sort of a blanket that you tie around your waist and that covers your legs and your lower half. You can see there's like a number of jewels sort of sewn into the belt. He says, I think if you were to wear this and have your upper half unveiled, the muted tones of this garment would complement the luster of your scales beautifully, and it would preserve your modesty while not veiling your natural beauty.
It would not look unwell to my guest, Avastar. This would be appropriate.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Again, I don't mean to ask an indelicate question, but and he looks quite uncomfortable while he's trying to work out how to frame this.
Out with it, man.
My apologies. I simply don't wish to offend. After all, you are customers. Your wishes are my highest priority. If you don't mind me asking, what is the nature of your relationship with your noble patron?
We are friends, colleagues, trusted combatants, I would say.
Lass, I know little of such things. I know that in some parts of the world, it is a noble's privilege to have a bodyguard or a protector who sees to their physical well-being. I apologise if I misjudged. I made the assumption that that was the case with yourself, since you're obviously a formidable force.
While I am not Avastar's personal protector, I am, shall we say, a protector of all who need it. Sometimes, whether they know it or not.
He's someone who would rush to my aid if I needed it, but I'm perfectly able to take care of myself.
As I would say of any of my colleagues.
In which case, I firmly believe that this sarong is the right choice for you. It would allow you to veil your your modesty to seem to fit in with polite society, whilst allowing you to display your well-defined musculature and the beauty of your natural scales.
Would it be permitted to wear a cloak to this? Like a cape or some
Yes,
kind?
of course. Of course, capes are a little last season, but I believe it's still permitted.
For I would require, he gestures at his shield, this symbol be etched into that cloak. For I cannot go unadorned of my lord's favour.
My friend, as I've said to your other colleague, I am not only a seller and purveyor of these fine garments, I'm also capable of customizing them or altering them. Most nobles require some form of individuality to be introduced to their garments. After all, no one wants to wear the same thing that anyone else is wearing. It would take me. It would take. Yeah, I can see you understand, my friend. It would take me about a day, but I could certainly perform alterations on this for you. If you wish me to embroider the symbol into it, I
Yes,
could do
please.
that. I could have my apprentice do that for you. Alas, I fear I'll be busy. I have a large garment alteration that I will be busy on, but my apprentice is very skilled. I have trained him well.
That would be most amicable. I assume that Alvastar will also be showing his house colours.
Certainly.
Well matched.
I am a little torn, if I'm honest, between the more natural colours versus the blues that my house holds. I was thinking of perhaps a darker blue. Perhaps that could reflect the night sky above the forest.
You want to wear like something like this? And I gesture to my dark blue coat.
No, it is completely different from that.
How? It's the exact color you're suggesting.
Not really.
I believe your friend. Again, I apologise if I'm being indelicate, but I believe your friend's trying to say, as they say in some of the southern kingdoms, he's looking for something with a little bit more pizzazz.
That is correct.
I'm saying the color is the same that he is suggesting. This is design, so you can't see me in the night.
And I'm sure it does a beautiful job, my friend.
I ignore Audius and basically say to this tailor, do you think you would be able to recommend something of a similar colour?
Well, I do have a garment. It's not quite finished yet. I'm afraid it is a little expensive, but it is something I've been preparing for next season. And he says, if you'll please follow me, he'll lead you through this warehouse again. And he takes you to what appears to be his table, his workstation where he works. You can see there's various needles, darning equipment, embroidery equipment, all very neatly spaced out, and he's obviously a very neat, methodical person. You see there's a dark blue garment laid on the table, and it looks as though he's actually been sewing several small reflective stones into it, so that as he holds it up and he moves, you can see the one arm that's got these small sort of stones sewn into it. It actually catches and refracts the light, so it looks like the light shimmering on the surface of the water.
Looks very interesting. A little radical compared to what I normally wear, but I like it.
Take my word for it, sir. All of the nobles in Battlebridge will be wearing this come the next season. It's the latest thing.
Well, yes, absolutely. I would certainly be happy to show it off at the ball, shall we say, in order to get you more customers.
Perhaps you should start your own trend, Halverstar. You want to make an entrance?
Yes, I do.
Excellent.
No
Well, as I say,
yes.
This garment is not finished, but I could certainly have it ready for the Lascaris ball. It does cost 5 gold pieces, I'm afraid. The reflective material in it is not cheap.
One should splash out every so often. I am happy to pay 5 gold.
Okay, he says to you, well, if you give me 2 of the gold now, I will take the rest on delivery. I would not feel right taking the full amount off you when you did not have the garment in your possession.
Oh, of course. And how long will it take to make this?
I could have it ready for the morning of the Lascaris ball. I don't believe that's starting until the early evening.
Indeed. And how about a mask to go with it?
Okay, now for all of you, he will throw in a mask with the cost of the garments you're taking. So what I'm going to just ask you guys is, what do you want your mask to look like? You've got fairly free reign.
Drax would like one to look like a stormy wave kind of cutting across to the. If you're looking at Drax face on to the left, with a lightning bolt kind of where his nose would be, the ridge, crashing down. Mixtures of blues and blacks.
So Drax wants a water and lightning motif.
Mine would look kind of like a goat's head that kind of covers my whole face and gives, with my outfit, gives a kind of satyr look.
Okay, as you're doing that, he says, "Oh, an excellent choice, sir. Might I ask, are you a follower of Pan, or are you simply adopting the aesthetic for this occasion?"
Merely the aesthetic.
Ah, well, it's still a very wise choice. It does have a certain timeless quality to it.
Indeed. Yes, the elves might like it.
Okay, so what are Avastar and Watum having as their masks?
Avastar would like something similar to the robe, something that reflects or has the sort of light motif in there. Something quite bright.
May I make a suggestion, Avastar?
Yes, Drax.
You talked about the spirits before, the ones that you said you saw. Perhaps you should honor Battle Bridge by having the mask may look like, from an outside perspective, a bunch of spirits.
Are you sure that won't scare away the guests?
The trader Ariel says, "Well, the point of wearing a mask is that it's supposed to conceal your identity until obviously the ceremonial unveiling, but it is generally expected that some of these garments will be quite outre, that they are designed to create a stir."
Well then, yes, a spirit mask.
I don't have any in stock, but I can certainly speak to my supplier. I'm sure I can get hold of one. What sort of expression were you thinking on the face of the spirit?
Something mysterious. Something that glints like the moonlight.
Splendid. How do you feel about the colour silver?
Perfect.
Excellent. I will make arrangements for that. And he actually takes out like a small folded piece of parchment from his pocket. He takes out a piece of charcoal and starts jotting some of this down. Then he turns to Watum and he says, "And you, my friend?"
From my hip, where I hang my wand, and I'm going to, it kind of hangs under a piece of cloth, so it's not obvious. But I'm going to show him the wand, and the head of one of the ends, they're identical. I would like a mask that looks much like this.
He says, "Ah, yes, the Mask in Furnace, one of our most popular numbers. A classic, sir. A classic. Yes, I can certainly provide you with one of those." And he busies himself with fetching all these masks and providing them to you. They are pretty much as described. He's, when a few you ask about payment, he just holds his hand up and says, "I would feel remiss as a supplier of fine garments were I to see you go half-clothed to such an affair. Please take the masks as part of your whole outfit. No extra payment is required."
How much does Drax owe the tailor? I don't think you ever said that, John.
Okay. He looks at you for a few minutes and he says, "Normally, such a fine garment as this would cost in the region of 2 gold pieces. However, it does strike me that I could do with someone to display some of my larger clothing to its best effect. If you were willing to accept a temporary commission to be seen about wearing some of my outfits, then I'm sure we could come to some equitable arrangement.
That sounds perfectly agreeable.
Splendid. Then let us say that I will give you this fine Sarongan mask for 1 gold piece, on the understanding that after the Lascaris ball has concluded, you will return here and you will amble around the southern districts wearing some of my fine garments. How does that sound to you, my friend?
That sounds reasonable. Am I permitted to engage the people I encounter in polite conversation, say, about things that interest me?
Oh, of course, of course. I simply want you to go out and be seen in some of my finer garments. I want people to know that just because you are taller in stature or you have a particular appearance, much as with your own scales, I want people to know that whatever you look like, as long as you have the means within your reach to afford such splendid garments, you will find what you need in my establishment.
Yes, despite our racial differences, no man is an island, after all. We can only use
Very wise, sir.
So yeah, Drax will do with the colloquial shaking of hands, handing of cash. I don't know what that goes down in.
Gold piece. Okay. With all your transactions concluded, what are you all doing after you've bought your various garments, your masks, etc., or you've got promissory notes if they're not ready yet?
I have no other plans for the day.
Same.
Head back to... do you guys want to head back to the Common Sword?
Yep.
Certainly, I wouldn't mind doing a little practice before a meal of some kind.
I will just need to go there. I'll just stop off at Anthus's house. And, John, we don't need to let that out. I just want to tell him that I'm using his place as a mailing address and kind of tell him what's going on.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. As you head past Antheus's, you head northwards. Let's bring the map up. You head across the South Bridge. As you head northwards towards where Antheus lives in his tower, you can see to the left, to the west of you, what appears to be a third large tower, almost built like a lighthouse of some kind. You can see there's like what appears to be a beacon on top of it, although it's not lit yet, since it's only like sort of 4 in the afternoon as you're heading back. And you continue onwards to Antheus's tower, where you apprise him of the situation. He's quite happy for you to use his address as a postal address. He asks you how the book's coming along. You obviously fill him in, and he's pleased to hear.
Yeah, and I might ask him to keep a lookout for anything pertaining to a orchestra called the Pale Raiders.
He says, "Oh yeah, yes, of course. I'll consult with some of my I'm sorry, my indexing system's not really up to much, but I'll have a look through what I've got, and of course, if I hear anything, I'll let you know."
No rush.
Right, you are.
Yeah. After just stopping there, I rejoin the others at the Common Sword.
Okay, not a problem. And you all rendezvous back in the Common Sword. By the time you've all got back there, it's about 5 in the afternoon. It's just starting to get a little darker.
Perfect. I would join you all for the evening meal in about an hour and a half. That should be fine.
Yeah, I have no other goals for the day.
Okay. As you've got into the Common Sword, you can see that Finnan is just changing places with Njorg, the orc bartender, who sort of rather grumpily stood behind the bar, tapping one of his gnarled talons on the bar. It's starting to get a little busier in there as the various fishermen and local traders are finishing up for the day and starting to wind their way home. Some of them dropping in for a drink on the way back.
So did Everstar retire to his room?
Yeah.
Saying like, "Oh, I'll meet you at night." Okay. So yeah, Kortis is gonna sit down. Did the others join him, or do they go to their room?
No, I'm with you. I'm with you for a while. I'm going to record the day's events.
Drax has been observing Audius since the incident in the church. Kind of slightly worried about him, in fact. His reaction was panicked.
So, yeah, I'm going to just be saying, Kortis mentioned the name Thaddeus. I thought he was just a devil speaking lies, but if the one had that reaction, then maybe I should look into this further.
Sometimes it's most easy to lie to someone by wrapping it in a truth. Or vice versa. It makes it easy to mislead you. So I would be careful in your research.
A loud, orcish voice bellows across the bar to you, and he goes, "You got about Thaddeus?"
What was that?
Thaddeus!
Can't say
Yeah,
that.
what about him?
Hold on a second, I'll come over, save me shouting. Boom, 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 boom.
That's a good idea.
I know! And he stomps over to the table, sort of like pushing a few people out of the way as he does. No, get out of it. Make some room. And he storms through, like plonks himself down unceremonious at the table. And he's like, Fennan, just keep an eye on the bar for a few minutes. I've got to talk to some customers. You hear Finnan's voice in the back say, I'm supposed to have finished my shift. I've been up on my feet all day. I need a rest. He's like, look, I covered for you the other night. Cover for me now. He's like, oh, right, fine, long as it's quick. And Finn walks out and stuff like he looks quite tired and he's leaning on the bar, one hand holding his head up. Cheers, Finnan! He's like, yeah, all right. At which point, Yarg looks over at you and he's like, yeah, well, you must have heard the stories about Thaddeus. Thaddeus villain? Well, yeah, every orc knows the stories.
Every orc except me.
I am not an orc.
Wow, that's obvious.
I do not know the stories.
You might
that
wanna...
was an invitation for you to tell us.
Oh right, sorry, I'm not really down with this whole like subtlety business. I prefer if people want me to tell them things, they just say, well, tell us about this. But yeah, I get you mean. He says, well, way I hear it, what my dad told to me like back in the day, ages ago, must be 5 years ago now, a long time ago. It was well, you know, like the old tales about how loads of like the tribes of orcs like rallied to the Gith and were sort of like their soldiers and their dogs' bodies. Well, that's all been blown out of proportion, if you ask me. It was only a few tribes went over to them. Not all orcs like behave the same way. Like not all humans behave the same way. And apparently, this, from what I hear, this Thaddeus, his tribe were one of them lot that were like, I suppose, like conquered by the Gith, if you say that. And there's all manner of like weird rumors that he tried to fight, make some like bargain with like evil powers and stuff like that, so he could free his tribe from the Gith. I don't know how much of it's true. You know how these things get like blown up. More people tell them. That's what I heard anyway. Said all of his boys, they used to like dip their hands in this like white paint, and then they'd like run it down the center of their face to show that they worked for Thaddeus.
So he tried to make deals with dark powers to free from the gift?
Yeah, that's what I heard. Don't know how it all turned out. I mean, he's obviously not around anymore, so I'm guessing it didn't work out very fucking well.
One thing strange, Thaddeus doesn't sound like an orcish name, right?
No, well, apparently he wasn't like fully orc. He was orc on his mum's side. Which is a bit weird. You ask me, how many humans do you know who go, oh, I fancy a bit of that orc there, I'm having a bit of that.
Kind of smile. You're right, not many.
Yeah.
You assume that both were agreeable.
Hey, I'm not assuming anything, mate. I wasn't there.
So the orcs under Thaddeus had a single line of white paint down their faces to show their allegiance.
Well, from what I understand, like I said, I don't know the full deal about it. It's just stories I've heard. They used to like dip their entire hand in it, and then they just used to basically go like this, right down the centre of their face.
Interesting. And I'm running this down. White line.
It says, way I hear it, the way he got to be like the boss of like his boys was because, well, I don't mean fucking nothing by it, but think about like our folks is they tend to be a bit cleverer than like your average orc. Don't know whether it's a bit of the human or whatever, but apparently he was quite cunning, quite like skillful from what I hear, and that's how he got to be in charge. But yeah, he's like, well, the way orcs tell it, he's a bit like what are the humans? You know, like the humans have the legends about like monsters in the night that are going to come and get you to like scare kids. Well, Thaddeus is like the orc version. You know, you're told when you're a little pup, if you don't like practice your sword fighting and you don't kill at least 4 enemies before you've turned 8, then Thaddeus will turn up with his white face boys and he'll steal you away during the night.
So like our children, human children are told to behave, but fairies will take them away.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing.
Interesting. So this is of interest of a personal nature to me. That is, and I heard his group was called the Pale Marauders. So I guess that's why I did that gesture for the paint, and that's how they got their name.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So all the orcs know about it, huh?
Well, loads of orcs. I mean, the story's a bit different depending on what orc you ask and what tribe they're from. But you know how these things get like twisted and all like messed about. I mean, we're talking like years and years ago now. I mean, well, I don't even know how many years.
Yeah, like 300 if it's fair.
Wow, yeah.
Do you think the orcs in Trolltown would know more?
Yeah, I'm sure they probably would. You could probably like ask. I'm sure if you asked like 6 different orcs, you'd probably get told 6 different versions of the story. I'm not saying there's any truth to it. I'm just telling you what I heard. I heard you mention the name, and I thought, wow, it's a bit of an excuse for me to skive off being on the bar for a bit, innit? And I get another bit of a chat. So
it's most appreciated.
Well, that's all right. You know, us greenskins got to stick together, haven't we?
No, we do. No. I'll flick him a silver piece. Just being helpful.
He like catches it and he like with it in his big fanged mouth, and he's like, oh, thank you very much. He's like, fucking hell, you keep paying me a silver piece, I'll tell you about any orc legends you want to fucking know about.
And I take you up on that. And I assume he kind of goes back to his shift, and I'm just like looking at the information I found.
He starts stomping off, then he pauses and he starts spinning. He goes, I'll tell you who you want to go and talk to if you want to find out more. You want to go and speak to the old fucking witch of Trolltown. That fucking crazy old woman will tell you all about it.
The witch of Trolltown?
Wow, that's what we call her. Fucking crazy old bitch.
Alright, I look for the crazy bitch in Trolltown.
Yeah, just ask anyone around in Trolltown, they'll direct you to her. Just follow the sound of like demented cackling, you'll find her. Anyway, let's get back to the bar. Finnan's looking like he's about to shit. I'll see you in a bit. And he walks back over to the bar and he's like, yeah, you can go and get some rest now, Finn, and I'll look after it. Finnan's like, oh yeah, thanks for that. And just disappears out the back, at which point Njorg like sits back behind the bar and he's like, ah!
Alright. Platoon, when you found out about your wand after searching so long for it, and you just found out information about it today, how did you feel?
I felt renewed motivation. I am driven more than ever to find the answers behind it. But I am also fearful of what I have learned so far. I would be happy to help you pursue such a task.
Yes. I am. I mean, it's
Perhaps
kind of
after this
unfortunate.
ball.
After? We have like a full 2 days.
Oh, if we have time, even better.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we need to wait for the clothing to be made and everything, so give us something to do. It's a shame the only person who knows about, who could know more about this Thaddeus character is someone who's known as a crazy old eccentric woman living in a slum district.
At least she is about.
Yes. I just feel like this is going to be hard to get information from her.
I feel you are not looking upon this correctly. You look upon this woman as a detriment to your pursuit, and yet he is alive and she is nearby. You should see this as a positive thing.
I do. I'd say I'm grateful for her presence, but I wish someone like Anthus knew about it, someone who I could more easily converse with. But you're right, I shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Do your people give gifts of horses?
Oh, you never look a gift horse in the mouth. It's common saying.
Very well.
I thought you would know all kinds of sayings. You use those idioms all the time.
I do not know that one.
So I kind of end up explaining to Wittem what that means. Like,
he just assumes that it's only something that orcs do. No matter how much Ordeus tries to convince him otherwise, because he's never heard of that.
I'd like to see in the future where a non-orc says it, and you assume they have orc lineage.
Okay, so while this conversation is going on, what's Drax doing?
Drax is listening in amicably enough. He was recalling something that was said to him in the previous day, I believe. Didn't, if I'm not mistaken, John, didn't one of the... I can't remember which NPC it was. Didn't someone tell Drax that the owner of the bar actually knows Thaddeus, or did know Thaddeus?
Brius certainly mentioned that... Well, Finnan mentioned that his father had apparently tangled with someone called Thaddeus in the past. However, his father only really spoke about it when he was in a particularly maudlin mood, when he was having some drinks to remember the fallen comrades that he lost so long ago.
Well, when the opportune moment arises, when Ordeus is say the only person that knows and such, Drax will be like, well, actually, there may be somebody else that knows.
I turned slowly.
Not to myself.
Yes.
I mean, I didn't want to say anything before because I feel like it's not my business to reveal this, but I kind of overheard through mixed conversation that the owner of this establishment apparently knew Thaddeus, being an old elf that he is. I wasn't sure if he was referring to the Thaddeus that you were looking for, but now that Finnan's been over, Brice has been over, perhaps they are the same.
I just stared at him. How long have you known this?
Only since last night. I didn't mention it because I was warned that...
Didn't you tell me?
Because I was told that the owner does not like to speak of it, and let's be fair, you can be somewhat insistent in your investigations. I had no real knowing if it's the same person.
Alright, next
So
time I find
you trust
information on
the
your
word of this owner
family.
rather than of your companion.
I didn't know for sure.
Yeah.
There could be more than one person called Darius. I didn't assume that it was who you meant. I mean, hundreds of years ago, what relevance could it have been? But judging by their past conversation, maybe it is the same man.
I look at Drax and what's him, and I'm like, yes. You mean you thought it was a different Thaddeus that became important suddenly, and was around about the same time?
Yes, this is your history. This is not my history. For all I know, it could be
Okay,
someone else.
if I encounter a family of Dragonborn that say they're looking for their lost family member Drax, I will think that it might be a different Drax, and I will wait at least a day before telling you, when they might have gone on their merry way.
I get the feeling, Audius, you may be annoyed at me.
I believe you are correct.
Hey,
I know.
I did not withhold this information intentionally to irritate you, but I generally did not know that it could be the same Thaddeus.
So for what purpose did you withhold it?
It didn't come up in conversation. These are
What?
legends we're talking
It is good.
about.
It is
So I
good
need to
that you
ask you
asked,
every
I see
single
Ordius.
possibility. Is there a dragon outside going to eat us soon? I mean, that hasn't come up across in conversation, but I think I ought to know.
Have
Not
you
that
heard
I'm
of someone
aware of.
else named Kortis?
No.
Well, I just thought I should ask.
I mean, feel free to ask the owner, but be careful how you do so, okay? Despite your irritation with me.
It's about 7 in the evening now. It's getting dark outside. You can see the same man you saw previously walking down the street, putting candles in the lanterns.
If it's 7, would Avastar come down? Because he said he'll meet us in an hour and a half.
Avastar, do you re-emerge from your room?
Yes, I do. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, just quickly, what have you been doing? Anything particularly?
Yeah. So first of all, I would like try on. Actually, no, I wouldn't try on the outfit, but I'd sort of look in the mirror, imagine myself with the whole outfit on, and do that for extensive periods of time. Then I'm going to do a bit of meditating and try and perfect verbalization of some of the new spells that I'm kind of getting better to grips with in my head. And then at about 7 o'clock, I'm going to head down.
Okay, not a problem. The garment looks absolutely beautiful. It's immaculately well tailored, and you meditate and go through the various kata and verbalizations to practice your spells. Then you head downstairs, and there seems to be quite a heated conversation going on between Drax and Audius, whereas Watum, I'm assuming, is sitting there looking slightly amused.
Yeah, amused and a little puzzled.
Dare I ask what is troubling you now, Audius? I'll take that as a no. Right, what is the meal for tonight? What have they got?
I'll go order the... I can go order the food if you want. I need to talk to Finnan anyway. I stand up.
Okay, not a problem. Obviously, Thinnan's out the back at the minute. It's Nyarg on the bar.
Does anyone ask Audius specifically to get them something?
No, in fact, Avastar is going to sort of emphasise that he did not specifically ask him, and he shouldn't think of it that way. So Avastar's going to
I love a nice salty beer, but I don't think Audius is talking to him right now.
Because I'm just not sure if it's the same Drax who wanted to eat dinner today, so I might forget Drax's meal. I ordered Avastar the most expensive kind of meal because I just associate nobility with expense. I don't actually consider it like a house, but like, and yeah, I get the two.
Do you expect confrontation?
No.
With whom? Wait here.
Alright. And yeah, it'll be in return normal food, but I'll also have to ask Finnan about Finnan, would it be possible for me to speak to your father at some point?
Finnan sort of emerges out of the back as you sort of like say his name, and he looks at you and he says, "Well, my father did ask to be left alone for a bit. I think this whole business with Sofia's hit him a little hard. He gets quite emotional around at this sort of time of year."
Can you tell him that it concerns Thaddeus Villain?
Finnan looks a little bit sort of unsure when you say that, and he's like, he did ask not to be disturbed. I don't really like to bother him when he's upset.
That's understandable. Why don't you write a note, and you can put it under his door, and then he can read it at his convenience.
Yeah, I suppose that'd be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I just write, Audius Morland, we met, blah blah blah. I have questions concerning Thaddeus and the Pale Marauders.
Okay, no problem. You give the letter to Finn, and he disappears off towards the staff quarters. He comes back a few minutes later looking quite perplexed, and he says, well, I slipped your note under the door. My father opened the door almost immediately. He says, if you want to go and speak to him, you could go through.
Mm-hmm. All right. Alright, so I'm going to head out and go talk to Brias.
Are any of the rest of you going with Audius, or are you just going on your own?
No, I offered, he declined.
I feel as a responsible cleric and friend of Audius, and perhaps the orchestrator of this situation, I should go with.
Avastar will lurk because he feels like he wants to see this, but more for his entertainment than
If only to see if it is the Thaddeus that we're both all thinking of.
Yeah. It turns out it is a different Thaddeus. I'll turn around and say, if it's all the same with you two, I'd rather have this conversation in private.
I understand.
Very well.
Okay, you're given directions to Brias quarters by Finnan. You sort of head into the corridor that leads to the staff quarters. The door to Thaddeus's room, which is quite plushly decorated. There's a lot of ornate wooden carvings depicting leaves, vines, etc., natural phenomena around the room. It's like a very plush study. You can see Brias is sat in a comfortable green leather armchair. As you walk in, you can see on the little table next to his right arm there's two bottles, one of which is empty, the other one is half full of a clear liquid. You can see Brias is sat there and he's got a fluted metal goblet in his hand, and he's just sort of raising it to his mouth as you walk in.
Yeah, you needn't have offered to see me so quickly. I could be at your earliest convenience, but I am grateful. And
that's fine. No. You notice his eyes seem to be like a little bit out of focus as he's talking. His words are ever so slightly slurred. No, thanks, necessary. Please sit yourself down. And he finishes his drink and puts the goblet down, starts pouring himself another. There's a very sweet sort of floral smell as he pours this clear liquid into this fluted goblet. He says, would you care for a drink?
Sure. Most appreciated. And I'm only saying yes because I'm assuming that's like the most expensive wine drink, and I want to try it.
He looks around and gets up off his chair, goes and rummages around in his desk, and brings out like a fairly sort of plain-looking tin mug, which he then puts down and says, "I'm afraid that this is all I've got for you to
Yeah,
drink."
that's fine.
He puts it down and he pours out some of this floral-smelling liqueural wine into the tin glass, and he, with a slightly shaking hand, he like pushes it across the table towards you.
At this point, I can tell that he's pretty drunk, right?
Yeah, that's a fairly safe assumption.
Okay. I don't know why I asked, actually. So, I take a sip and I say, so how do you know about Thaddeus? And I make a point to take a check of how he responds when I say that name.
You notice a look of sadness comes across his face, and he peers down into his fluted drinking vessel, sort of swirling it around a bit, takes another swig of it, draining it in one, puts it down on the table, and he says, well, as I've told you previously, I'm fairly old as my kind reckon years, and I fought in the conflict that is now called the Gith War, or the Gith conflict, to help free all of the people of Alan and the rest of the world from the tyranny of the Gith. I was one of a small group sent to investigate rumours that we'd heard of an orc warlord, a terror as he was called, who was believed to be rounding up a number of his people to attempt to make a strike against the Gith. We had hoped that perhaps, even though our kinds distrusted each other, that perhaps they might rally to our cause, and we might form an alliance of convenience. That was the hope. It didn't turn out that way, though.
So you tried to get Thaddeus tried to ally yourselves with him. Why didn't it work?
Again, he sighs and he looks quite sad, and he says, "We had heard that Thaddeus was holed up in a small mountain village that his men had been resupplying there, and that's where we might find him. Our scouts had reported seeing a large amount of orcs in the area who weren't flying the Gith banners, so that's the first place we stopped on our search. And when we got there, if I live to be 1003, I'll never forget. I'll never forget the sight we saw when we arrived at the village. Not a single man, woman, or child of the village lived by the time we arrived.
They were all killed? Or was it an orc village?
It was a mixed village. Even then, as now, the mountain folk are far more pragmatic about their neighbours. If you're willing to, well, I've not been there for some time, but back then, if you were willing to contribute to the survival of the settlement, you were generally welcomed. The environment up there on the high peaks is far too harsh to be overly picky about who your neighbours are, due to such fripperies as race. But none of them had been spared.
Everyone was killed. Women and children as well.
Yes.
How? With orcish blades?
Please understand, given the conflict with with the orcs that had allied with the Gith at the time. We were uncertain what side of the conflict Thaddeus and his tribe fell on. So I sent a couple of scouts first to attempt to see if the way was safe for us to go. When my men returned to me, they were as pale as the mountain snow, as though all of the life had been taken from them. Their limbs were trembling. I've never seen such fear in an elf soldier's face before. When we arrived there, the bodies that we found, if I thought my men had looked pale, they were nothing compared to the skin of the people we found. It was like marble, cold, white to the touch, as though all the life had been drained out of them somehow. Their faces, oh God, I'll never forget those faces. The horror, the fear etched on the face of every man, every child, every woman that I saw as I walked through that blighted place.
I shudder. And I lean in, and what of Thaddeus?
He looks at the sort of now empty bottle and he says, "Go out. I'm sorry, I've had a considerable amount to drink. My legs are a little unsteady. Go out to my boy Finnan. Ask him for another bottle of my elderflower wine, but bring it back here, and then we'll talk some more."
Yeah, I step out and I look at him curiously. And
he's slowly been like sliding down his chair a bit in his sort of drunken state as he's been talking.
So I'm going to take a look at him, and I feel like he might feel. To me, he feels kind of guilty. That's my impression. So I'm actually worried that he might hurt himself. So I would. Yeah, I'm going to roll an insight to kind of confirm that. I got an 11.
Okay. He does seem very upset. He doesn't seem like he's in a mood to do himself or anyone else harm. He just seems like he's very maudlin and quite depressed.
Alright, so you guys sitting at the table will see like Audius like walk out of the priest's room with like kind of sweating and with like a concerned expression on his face, and you see him go like whisper something to Finnan. Need some of that elderflower wine for your father.
He looks at you and he says, "Oh God, it must really be a dark mood on my father. He's already had 2 bottles of it. That stuff's very strong. I'm a little bit worried about giving him another bottle, to be honest."
Do you have any? Show me the bottle. Just what it looks like.
He takes out this sort of like long, thin bottle with this sort of clear liquid. There's a slight yellowish tinge to it now. You look at it closely.
Alright, how much does the bottle cost?
He says, "Well, this is extremely rare. I mean, we're talking 3 gold pieces a bottle. It's not cheap."
Okay. Alright. Oh, you're going to go to your father anyway. Alright. Let's water it down a bit so he doesn't kill himself drinking. He shouldn't notice because he's already inebriated. And
Finnan looks shocked and he says, "Do you really think he's that upset?" Oh, God.
Well, if this is very strong and very rare wine, I don't want to try it.
Okay, I've got another bottle down here. I'll put some in there. I'll put half of it in there and I'll water it down. And he does so and like passes you this bottle with the watered down wine in it.
And I try my best to make it look like properly sealed. I have a feeling he won't be too discerning.
Yep.
And I glance back to the free table, and then I rush back into Brias's room.
Okay, the three of you are sat at the table. You can definitely see there's like a very concerned or worried look on Kortis' face as he hurries out with this bottle of wine.
What have you learned?
Shouts Swatum.
Okay.
Oh, I thought he was with us. Sorry.
Yeah, I just looked at you, basically.
In that case, I'm going to approach him. Are you okay?
I think I'm learning some horrible thing about this Thaddeus character. I think he might be like the Black Elves in the sense that he might have been someone who went too far trying to stop the Kef.
And you
And
think he is a danger?
I'm not sure. Brias looks really upset over it, though. He's drinking a lot, so I'm giving him this watered down wine. Perhaps he won't kill himself with it. So I'm gonna go talk to him again and get as much information. I'll be right out to share with you again.
I can help him to sleep.
I don't think you need a spell for that, but he's really inebriated. I think it would be in bad form to show him in a state around to everyone, don't you think?
If you say so.
Sorry, what was that? You cut out a bit.
If you say so. Your
Kinda
judgment's
look
going to be better than
like
mine. Social graces and stuff.
Yeah, and I have the charisma of 8. So I
Yeah,
head
but
back to
I'm not
see
around here.
Okay, not a problem,
Fair
audience.
enough.
You head back to Brias's quarters. As you get in, you can see he's actually sort of leaning against like a dresser with a mirror on it, sort of holding the edges though to steady himself. And you can see you can't really see what he's looking at, but he appears to be sort of looking at something in the mirror. You can see he's sort of swaying slightly as he's like holding himself up with the edge of this dresser. You see his fluted goblet has been knocked over. Presumably when he stood up, he's knocked it off the table.
So Brias, I brought you your wine.
He turns round, and as he does so, you can see he's basically like pulled open at the top of his shirt, and you can see there's like what appear to be two old but sort of like not very well healed like puncture marks there on his chest, and you can see there's like tear tracks on his face as though he's been crying while you're out of the room. He turns back. He turns back around. And he goes to, like,
are you okay?
he nods and he goes to like walk over back to his chair, but obviously like the drink's gone to his head and he like stumbles and falls to one knee as he tries to make his way back to his chair.
Okay. I help him up and I try to be quick and not. When I do that, I try to not say anything because it's kind of because I don't want to embarrass him. I'm like, yeah, you fell over. Now I'm consoling you. So I like sit him down in his chair quickly and pour him like some wine quickly.
You pick up his goblet, pour him some wine, and he takes it in like both. He's actually having used both of his hands to hold it now, and he puts it down on the table. Thank you.
And I sit down then. So you fought with Thaddeus, didn't you?
No, I never actually met him. I never actually saw him to himself, but I decided that we couldn't leave those poor people in that state. I said to my men, I don't care how long it takes. We need to give them a proper burial. so that's what we started doing, and we stayed there all day until it started getting dark, digging holes for them. It was all we could do for them. And then, as it got dark, and I remember the moon on that night was big. It was the biggest moon I've ever seen. A bright full moon, so bright you could see the entire village and the mountainside. And that was when I first heard one of my men screaming. I ran over. I'd taken my sword off. I'd been digging, helping my men. I grabbed it and ran over. When I got there, my friend Kilfin, he'd been digging a hole for one of the villagers. And as I got there, this villager had him round the throat and was biting into the side of his throat. I could see the blood running down the villager's face, just spilling onto the snow of the mountains, staining it red. Oh, God, it was a terrible sight. And he grabs his goblet and he's like...
My God, the corpses all rose back, didn't they? He had changed them.
Yes, we managed to burn them. That was the only thing I could think to do. But by the time we'd done that, we weren't expecting to face such demons. Only myself and 4 other of my men made it away from that damn place. We didn't have the strength to press on to see whether we could actually find Thaddeus himself. We assumed that he was responsible, but we had to report back to our base of operations. We couldn't carry on moving the mountains. The mountainside were crawling with gift troops. The 6 of us would have been easy pickings. We had no choice but to retreat. At this point, he reaches out to grab his goblet again. He reaches out to grab his goblet again, and he misjudges it and knocks it. It falls to the ground like a dunk, and some of this wine spills out. He makes an exclamation, which I'm assuming you don't speak Elvish.
No.
He makes some form of exclamation, which you might assume is a swear word in Elvish.
Okay, so I pick it up for him, and I say, and then you were bitten.
Yes,
what?
Here on my breast, I was fending off. I attempted to pull this creature off my friend Kilthwyn, and as I did so, it latched onto me. Between the 2 of us, we were able to force it down, and we were able to. We had to cut it up. You see, it was the only way we could. And he looks as though he's about to vomit where he's thinking about it, but he sort of chokes it down and says, we had to cut all of them up before we could burn them, but it managed to bite me here. And in all the long years, it's never fully healed properly.
So, have you noticed any changes from it?
No,
infection.
No, it's just stayed as it is. Like I say, it causes me no great harm. Occasionally, it pains me slightly, but when the weather gets cold, like it is now, but it doesn't cause me any serious problems. But it always reminds me when it comes around to winter about those events. That's why I normally stay in my quarters through the colder months. I can't have it. I don't want my son to see me like this.
Don't worry, he won't. That's why I didn't invite my companions in here.
At which point he sort of grabs hold of your hand and he says, I want Finnan to appreciate the fact that I want him to think that having a longer life is a joyous thing. The world being so full of wonder. I don't want him to think about all the horrors I've seen in my time. And he sort of clasps your hand.
I rest my other hand on him and I say, it's because your long life was endured with so much horror that your son's long life will be endured with a lot of peace and harmony. It's because of you he doesn't have to fight. His life won't be filled with wars against the Geth.
The only thing that kept me going through that damn war was the fact that, like you say, if we were fighting so that people now don't have to, we believed that we were making a better world for our children and our children's children. It was the only thing that kept us fighting in those dark days.
Now, I think I might have to leave you to rest now. But do you have anything else that you think might be important?
All I can tell you is that I never directly encountered Thaddeus. That was the only contact I had with his sort. I did hear from some of our allied forces that there had been other scenes similar to the one I described. Who knows how many of the villages that we came across that we assumed had been razed to the ground by the Gith and their forces were actually a result of this creature, this orc demon thing.
Now, is this like his quarters or like his study?
His quarters. There's like a cot in one corner.
Alright. Do you need help to get to your bed?
No, thank you. I think I'll just sleep here. This chair's quite comfortable. I've slept in it before.
Okay. Try to ease up on the drink next time. I say out of genuine concern.
He nods as he tries to speak, but his voice sort of chokes and trails off, and he just.
I gently I pull the door open but not fully, so I can sneak out without anyone possibly taking a peek at him. And I shut the door and I tell Finn, yeah, absolutely, don't disturb your father. And I sit back down for the free and I look at them and I say, vampires.
Vampires? They are
Vampires.
real?
Is that it? Yeah. I kind of look at him quizzically, of course. Thaddeus.
Where are they?
I don't know, that's the thing.
Aha. And where is Thaddeus now?
I shudder when you say that because Kortis called me Thaddeus. I have no idea. I say, but you can hear like some uncertainty in my voice. But I think.
Oh.
I look at Drax. Sorry for being hard on you earlier, but I was eager to find the information, and now I can barely feel like I wish I hadn't almost. I'll say one thing. I think this troll witch might. This witch of Trolltown might give us the rest of the information we need.
I am
Okay,
glad that
Sorry, go ahead.
Thaddeus and no vampires are nearby. I say not knowing that to be true at all.
Okay, it's about 9 o'clock in the evening now, guys, by the time all this conversation with Breas has concluded.
Mm-hmm. And I will fill you guys in that Breas fought with in the Gift War, and he came across a town that was ravaged by the vampire known as Thaddeus.
You said he was bitten?
I think I won't tell you how drunk he was or that he was bitten, because
Okay.
I think, yeah, that's like his personal stuff. until he eats us all.
This better not come back to bite us in the ass or the neck.
By the look on your face, it would seem that information was hard to acquire and hard to hear. How best should we
Yes.
proceed now? To Trolltown, you say?
Well, we can head out there tomorrow morning. I don't want to be caught in Battle Bridge that late.
Agreed. It is dangerous to be out after midnight, I say, looking at Avastar.
Thank you, Latum.
Well, he's right, you know.
Obviously he's right, but he didn't have to mention. You're doing so well.
Are you guys thinking about retiring for the evening, or?
I think so.
Yes, I will retire. Maybe a little nightcap
Indeed.
Okay.
to warm
will-
my heart.
You all have a drink, etc., retire to your various rooms. Watum and Avastar in the slightly plusher rooms. Audius and Drax to their individual rooms. A bit less plush, but they are still individual rooms. Drax,
Yeah, I'm just going to study it. No.
no problems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Drax, you head up the stairs to your room. Can you make me a perception roll, please?
Okay. I can do that, John. Thanks for not reading my suspicion radar or something. Anything. That would be a 13.
Okay, as you get to your room, you notice that the door is ever so slightly open, just by like a little like crack. You sure you shut it when you left earlier on?
Mm-hmm. Curious. So, my thaumaturgy, can I actually do physical things with it? Like, can I move stuff with it?
I'll tell you what, I will check since I have a handy reference here.
My cantrip.
It's like harmless sensory effects, so I think you can cause like the ground to shake and stuff, but not.
Yeah, you can make the ground shake. You can
Yeah,
make
you
loud.
can cause harmless. The effects are you can cause flames to flicker, brighten, dim, or change colour for 1 minute. You can cause harmless tremors in the ground for a minute. You can create a sound. You can cause an unlocked door or window to fly open or slam shut. Or you can alter the appearance of your eyes for 1 minute.
Okay, so I'll draw my weapon, but I won't ready it to strike. I'll just hold it to my body, and then I'll just open the door with my thaumaturgy.
Okay, you hold your hand out and the door just like poof, flies open. You hear what sounds like a grunt of pain coming from somewhere behind the door.
Who's there? Identify yourself. It's rude to walk into a stranger's room. No permission.
You hear the sound of someone sort of like shifting or like moving, but no voice responds to your.
This is your last warning. If you don't identify yourself, I will use.
There's the sound of breaking glass from inside the room, and you watch as you. Are you looking through the doorway, or are you just standing in the corridor?
No,
Okay, as you look through the doorway, you see someone wearing a dark brown robe who was obviously hiding behind the door, and you've just slammed it open into them, hence the grunt of pain. He literally pushes the door outwards, runs across the room, sort of jumping off your bed, and he dives at the window, like smashing through the window.
Right, I'll run to the window and I will immediately cast command word stop. Does it have any effect?
Okay. So you're saying halt, effectively.
Yep.
You see this robed figure, his sort of brown robes flapping about him. You also see the glint of what would appear to be a dagger of some sort of slightly curved, held in one of his hands. He hits the deck and looks as though he's about to sprint off, and you, with the force of your command, shout halt, at which point he stops as though he's like been frozen.
I will jump out the window after him.
Okay, not a problem.
It's brandished.
you jump out of the window, landing next to this robed figure. As you land next to him, since your spell only lasts for 1 round, as you hit the deck next to him, he spins around, suddenly free to move again, lashing out towards you with this curved dagger.
Okay.
And that is where we will end the session.
Sweet.
Hey,
I hope that was okay for you guys.
Yeah, excellent.
Yes.
Does anyone have anything they wish to say before I end the broadcast?
Thanks for running it.
Thank you for killing my character.
I was also going to ask about falling damage.
I'm like a meter tall. That takes some of the fall. It's fine.
To be fair, the common sword
diving through a window.
But yeah, reminiscence of days of old.
I will work out the falling damage for the start of
Yeah.
the next session, since obviously I knew we were going to effectively be ending.
Next, Drax is going to want to just head out and see the world.
Okay, so it just remains for me before I end the broadcast. I'm quite happy to chat for a bit afterwards, guys. Thank you very much for playing. I hope you all enjoyed the game.
7?
Yep, very much so.
And thank you to anyone who's watching this now or in the future. I will end the broadcast now.